to order. First, we are starting with, Let us start with our two public hearings. So first, I'm going to open up the public hearing for our 2023-24 budget. This is a public hearing scheduled for Monday, June 26th, prior to the regular Board of Trustees meeting. The Romeo Village President, together with the Board of Trustees, will hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 23-24 recommended budget. The meeting is to take action on the proposed budget and will commence following the closing of the public hearing during the regular Board of Trustees meeting to be held Monday, June 26, 23. Public comments, either oral or written, are welcome during this public hearing. Persons with disability or needing assistance can let us know that, and we will help you get your comment. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Is this about the public hearing?
Yes, this is a public hearing for the budget.
Right. Is that a quick one?
Yep, come on up.
Mary Meisner, 489 Victoria Lane. Today, and for the past couple of weeks, I've spent time reviewing all the political advertisements, newspaper articles, and trustee talk gatherings. They were all out there with the goal of getting reelected or elected to a position on the Romeo Village Board in the November 2022 election. No one ever mentioned raising taxes to be able to balance the budget. Nothing has changed or any new surprises. The engine plant was closing, petroleum costs used for asphalt were high, and contractor costs were high and increasing on a regular basis. So in regard to this public hearing on taxes, I sure hope you can balance the budget without increasing the millage. If you think that is the direction you need to pursue, then let your constituents have a vote in it by holding a special election. And every time special election is mentioned, they always talk about cost, cost, cost. I happen to be an election worker, and I am given far less than what the advertisements for McDonald's are for the incoming employee. I receive $13 an hour, and that would only require 2 people in Washington Township and 2 in Bruce Township. So it's very economical to hold a special election. Thank you very much.
Do we have any more public comment on the proposed budget? Hearing none, we will close this public hearing for the budget. It is 7:03. And then we will open the public hearing for the 23-24 millage rates. Again, public hearing to be held June 26, 23, 7 p.m. The Village Council of the Village of Romeo will hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 23-24 recommended property tax millage rates to be levied in 2023. The property tax millage rate proposed to be levied to support the 23-24 adopted budget will be a subject of this hearing. The meeting to take action on the millage rates will follow the public hearing during the regular Board of Trustees meeting. Public comments, either oral or written, are welcome during the public hearing. Do we have any public to speak at this time? Okay, hearing none, we will close the public hearing for the millage rates, 23-24 millage rates. It is now 7:04. And now we will move into our regular scheduled Board of Trustees meeting for June 26, 2023. Let us have a call to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Trapp, could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew. Edwards.
Yes.
Fowler. Kerr.
Here.
Parker.
Present.
Rosso,
Present.
President Poznanski.
Here.
We have 5 present.
Okay, let us move into the approval of the agenda.
I just had one question on the agenda for chronological purposes. Mark, do we have to approve the millage or a budget first?
Well, they should go together. And I noticed that in your agenda that you have the budget resolution followed subsequently by the millage. You can do those together. I recommend to vote separately on those. But certainly, it would be imprudent to adopt one and not the other. If you adopt the budget and don't approve the mills to support it, then you're gonna have a problem. And if you adopt the millage but reject the budget, you're not gonna have a budget. You can't spend money as of July 1st. So I would do those not at the, I wouldn't have one motion and one vote on that. I would do them separately, but you can do them in conjunction with one another.
But
So-
if it stays as is, as our agenda, where they're separated, that doesn't make a difference?
It does not.
Okay.
Your only problem is gonna be, but your vote is gonna be your vote. Your only problem is gonna be if you, as I mentioned, you approve the budget and don't pass the millage resolution. But the fact that it comes later in and of itself is not problematic. The motion and the vote is what's most important.
Okay.
Okay, with that, do we have any,
Where do we stand on the Congregational Church? Were we supposed to have some answers this month?
not that I was asked.
No, I think
We're on the approval of
It
the
was in
agenda.
our
at the
Just
moment.
let it go
Something to the
cold?
office.
it was in their hands to come back.
Okay.
Does the council want to approve this agenda or add or delete?
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Edwards, second by Parker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Okay, we have our minutes. Let's do them separately let's do our May 15th meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments for these minutes?
I didn't see anything.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 15th, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Edwards, second by Parker. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none opposed. Now we have our special meeting minutes for June 12th.
I'll make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from June 12th, 2023.
Support?
Okay, this time we have the motion by Parker and the second by Edwards. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Any opposed? There are none opposed. Okay, let's move into our approval of the bills. Do we have any questions?
The payment to Able Tree, was that for the stuff that we talked about for DDA?
What amount do you see on that
The
list?
8,000?
Yes, that would be the DDA one that was approved.
Just wanted to make sure.
And then, what's Verizon Wireless for?
Those are our phones in the village office, DPW, wastewater, and the iron removal plant.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Can you please state both amounts?
I'm sorry,
Can you make sure to state both amounts?
in the amount of $258,395.94 and $39,140.37.
I'll second, but what's the two separate ones? What, I missed that.
That's what I was looking.
We always have two separate bill amounts. So that was a motion by Care, second by Parker. So you have a total on, hold on, 'cause there's a lot. There's always like a total for the check register and then a total for,
One of the totals is for the check register of checks that are at the village hall right now that have not been mailed or signed until approval tonight.
Okay,
And the other one reflects the amounts of every penny that left the village office since the last Board of Trustees meeting.
Copy, thank you.
They kind of reflect
Okay,
each
can
other
you-
then.
Can you call the
Sure.
roll on that one, though? This money?
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
President Poznanski,
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, we do not have any special presentations tonight. I have not received any correspondence. We're into public comments. We have 3 minutes at the podium if you'd like to have public comment.
Do you have room? I'm spreading out like a crazy person, okay.
Mary Meisner, 489 Victoria Lane. From time to time, I hear people commenting about the lack of parking in our downtown business district and the possibilities of how that could be resolved. I'm really confused because I frequently see business owners' vehicles with their advertisements very visible parked on North Wall Street all day long during business hours, while the village parking lot at 32 Mile and North Bailey is half full. If I grab a bite to eat and park on Main Street, I'm limited to 2 hours. But on North Rawls, today, for instance, there were 6 trucks and 1 trailer parked all day long. If all the businesses in the downtown area parked their vehicles with advertisements on them, we certainly would have a parking crisis, and there would be no place for shoppers or visitors to park. I surely hope that this can be resolved. I'm sure that I'm not the only person to make this observation. Remember, it's not occasionally, it's continual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clark Stow. I live at 380 Brook. I'm here to talk about 3 very brief things. Number one is a kind of a recruiting question, so I'm kind of disappointed that we have such a small turnout. But I'm here as chairman of the Romeo Park Citizen Task Force, indicating to everybody that we're still looking for 2 to 3 members on this committee, preferably from Romeo with bulldog spirit, because we need the help getting this project moving forward. The other 2 items are just purely suggestions where I'm asking the board to consider. One of them has to do with grants. If by chance we do something with the Citizen Park Task Force, we're going to fund that with grants. So I'm wondering why the village did not have a grant person kind of on staff, not necessarily a person, but somebody on retainer that does grants. That also applies to the village as well as it does myself, because I can't believe there's not a lot of projects around the village that couldn't be funded by a grant of sorts. And I say that because I just got through reading the paper a couple of days ago where a city within the state of Michigan got a grant to pave 2 or 3 streets. And we've got paving projects, so I'm just saying that I'd like to see some consideration be given to bringing somebody in some fashion. A grant person is a free person. It doesn't cost you anything because you get money put back on the first grant. And after looking around a little bit, you would be surprised how thousands of pounds or dollars they're out there. The third thing and the final thing is that I'd like the group to consider at least giving the Citizen Park Task Force, $200 or $300 in spending money because we don't have any money to do anything. I'm just saying minor amounts of money. I'd hate to have to come before the committee just to spend $2 or $3 if we don't have to. We do have one item on the agenda that calls for funding because we want to put an ad in the paper the irony is, if you approve that, we don't have the money to run the copies to do the survey. Unless the buddy on the committee spends their own money. So I'm just asking you to give us some consideration. Thank you.
Do we have any else for public comment? Okay, hearing none, we are closing public comments. It is only 7:15, you guys. Okay, officer reports. Clerk Trapp, do you want to start?
Sure. On May 20th, the village, along with Bruce Township, hosted a Shred Day event at Parks and Rec's parking lot. I would like to thank the 4 SERVE students from Romeo High School who came to the village the Thursday before Shred Day to help the village clean out some of the archive room and bag up some of our old documents to take to Shred Day. The Memorial Day celebration and parade was a very big success this year. Special thank you to local Boy Scout Troop 87 for lining the parade route with American flags. Thank you to Sue Howard of the local Ladies Auxiliary and her volunteers, along with Cemetery Board member Sandra Brooks, for placing flags at the graves of vets in the Romeo Cemetery. Also, thank you to cemetery maintenance staff Mitchell Foster for having the cemetery ready to go for the day's events, and to Post Commander Troy Kosel for organizing the event. The Memorial Day event wouldn't be able to take place without all of their help. For a few days earlier this June, I attended the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks annual conference in downtown Detroit. Not only did I attend, but I was also very honored to be asked to facilitate a session on being a clerk in a village. The look of the new water bills will be hitting your mailbox next week. Thank you to Chris Pilarski, the admin at DPW, for working hard on getting them ready to go. And also a special thank you to DPW for the new cemetery watering can posts that are throughout the village cemetery. We started it off this year with just a few, so hopefully we will continue and get them all completed for next summer. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Catherine. I don't see our treasurer here, so no treasurer report. I do have president's report. I tried to chop it down this month. I attended our senior seminar. We had the scams seminar, which was presented by Prosecutor Peter Lucido. It was very well attended with a lot of good, interesting information. The seniors had a lot of questions, so I could tell that it was very much welcomed. We had our first fire and ALS subcommittee meeting. Myself and Trustee Edwards were able to attend. I've included the minutes in your packets. It's in the back with the information only. So we do have a follow-up meeting scheduled in July. Our tree board had their meeting on the 15th. Now that Arbor Day is behind them, they're focusing their efforts on looking over the current tree ordinance, maybe making some adjustments, a possible donation program, and maybe a tree grant program for the village residents. Their next meeting is scheduled for July 20th at 7 p.m. right here in this meeting room. For the DDA, as the liaison, I did attend the special meeting on May 17th and the regular meeting on June 5th. A few updates from there. The sidewalk and community-wide garage sales had great weather, and they were both well attended. The current focus for the DDA are on 2 upcoming events, the Summer Concert Series and the Vintage Fest. The Summer Concert Series is set to kick off on July 12th in the Village Park and will continue every Wednesday through the end of August. Vintage Fest is also just around the corner on July 15th and was a great hit last year. If you are looking to join the Vintage Fest car show, applications are still being accepted. Also, the event subcommittee is currently looking for volunteers to help the day of event and for sponsors. So if you are interested in helping or sponsoring or entering your car, please reach out to Andrea St. Laurent by email at astlaurent@romeodda.org, or her cell phone is a 586-337-1569, and I did have her permission to let everybody know her cell phone number. The story walk is still up and in the storefront, so please take advantage of this fun family tradition we have here in the village. Also, I was able to meet with DDA Director McLeod in the southwest parking lot, and we found an agreeable location for the little library. Director McLeod will be taking it from here and coordinating the installation of that. For Prospect Street, I have not received any official information regarding this project since the May meeting, so I have nothing officially to report. To your question, Matt, in regards to 102 Church Street, I've had a few inquiries regarding the rezoning and where we go from here. So for now, the village has received communication from the property owner's lawyer. The lawyer has informed the village of his client's plans going forward. However, I do not feel it's the village's place to announce the property owner's plans, and I'm sure in time these steps will be known. With our EV tip, we have had our intro meeting on the 27th. We had a good start, getting to know the team and a deeper understanding of the process and the benefits for the village. Carmen and her team are headed back to the village this Wednesday for follow-up and plans for the next steps. I had a few meetings around Village Hall this month, one with our insurance carrier and a couple pre-planning for different building and other things around the village. In regards to our road bond, myself, along with Treasurer Miller and Clerk Trapp, had a few phone calls. We had to do due diligence and a few other things in prep for the sale on June 7th. We had a very good response to the sale on the 7th. We had 7 bids and landed on a great offer that actually had a lower than predicted interest rate. So we have completed all the sale paperwork these last 2 weeks and will be finalizing and receiving those funds into our account this Wednesday. In reference to grants, go figure. I was able to apply for 2 grants this month, the My Pension Grant and the MDOT Road Grant. The My Pension Grant is being offered by the Michigan Treasury Department, and it's helping the municipalities who are funded under the 60% for their pension liabilities. If awarded, this could bring us over $100,000. The second is the Transportation Economic Development, or known as the TED Grant, Category B, and this is being offered by MDOT, and it is a matching grant. So this focuses on road work and would be a match up to $250,000. Since we have our road project going already, this would be a great supplement to the bond money. With our parking lots, myself, along with 2 other business volunteers, spread fresh mulch in the flower beds in the southwest parking lot, and I wanted to say a thank you to the generous local organization that paid for the mulch and made this possible. The North Bailey parking lot is getting some love and attention as a cooperative effort between the village and the property owner building on North Bailey just north of our lot. The owner is revamping the parking lot and all the foliage. We are very grateful for this much-needed project is getting done. An update with the roof for the police station, that is scheduled to be done this week. We've had 2 other dates being ruined by rain delay, so we are crossing our fingers for this Wednesday or Thursday. As it is raining, I've been getting a couple comments about the storm drain on 32 in West St. Clair. This is a known ongoing issue. However, this is a county drain, so this is not something that the village can correct. I have personally taken pictures and emailed and sent them off to the county. They are well aware, and they are doing their best to get on it in a timely manner of which fits their schedule. With the village park, the gazebo is coming along nicely, and after having a short pause this month after initial inspections, requested some additional reinforcement work of the structure. We are crossing our fingers to be finished up by the start of the DDA Summer Concert Series in a couple weeks. However, a backup plan has already been enacted so as to not rush our awesome contractors. So no matter what, if the gazebo is finished or not, there will still be a summer concert series starting on July 12th. Initial plans have begun for the rededication ceremony, and we will announce the date as plans solidify along that way. For Memorial Day, we had a great Memorial Day parade here. The weather was fabulous, and it was well attended. We were honored to have special speaker Colonel Slocum, and there were many local dignitaries in attendance. I wanted to say a thank you to our cemetery board and Clerk Trapp for all their work in pulling this event off again this year. Coming up around the village, in addition to our concert series and Vintage Fest, we have our annual Garden Walk. This will be taking place on July 16th. It is from 11 to 4 p.m. It's hosted by the Romeo Juliet Garden Club, and this year they boast 9 sites in 6 stunning gardens. Pre-sale tickets are available for purchase already at both of the Romeo libraries, Town Hall Antiques and MJC Marketplace. And I just wanted to take a moment to ask everyone to enjoy all of the great events happening this month and wish everyone a happy 4th of July. That is it. Do we want to go into trustees? Nolan?
I'm okay.
Parker? Sorry.
So, about a year ago, this board approved pay raises for our elected administrators. 3 of the members on this board had an issue with that, and I feel Matt kind of brought it up earlier in the year that we've kind of just let that go. So I think to stay true to what we had an issue with, I'd like to see maybe next month the administrative ordinances added to the agenda for discussion and potential change to those. Just because we brought it up, we had an issue, and I feel like we shouldn't just let it die. Besides that, I can go into the planning if you would like. I know we got the one topic already on the agenda. Besides that, we had a short meeting with planning. The only other topic we discussed, initiating a flagpole ordinance, something that would just put some safety into place after we had the one pole come down in town and look at that. But besides that, that's all we had. Thank you.
Russo?
Sure. Thank you to Clerk Trapp for the Memorial Day Parade and all the work that went into it. It was really nice. I had the honor and privilege of sitting up on that podium, and it was a real privilege, so thank you. It really was. I have been meeting, or the Park Commission has been meeting for their task force. They are very organized and eager and working to move things forward, so hopefully we can get a couple more members. We have one potentially interested. And then the chairperson and I met out on the property with a landscape designer just to get some ideas and see what they had to say and kind of throw the ball around. That went really well. And then I guess more than a comment, it's a question, is I noticed our treasurer wasn't here for a report, and that's a significant role within our community. So, Madam President, can you inform me, is that a required step that treasurer is supposed to make, is to be present and give a report or provide one within the packet?
I don't believe there's anything in ordinance or in general village law. I would defer to Mark on that.
There is not a formal requirement that the treasurer appear. Historically, that's been the case. The treasurer has come to the meetings, either answered questions if he or she thought appropriate, or provide a report, but it's not a statutory or an ordinance requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Edwards?
I didn't have anything at the beginning of the meeting, but I guess I would like to address your funding issue. Do you have, maybe we could talk about it next month, put it on the agenda, but in the meantime, is there, I don't know if you have any way of creating a budget or anything like that for what you might need for mailings and advertising?
You know,
How much money you're talking about?
we're only talking about $200 or $300. We're not talking about,
Okay.
You know, something that,
Well, maybe if there was just I'll say maybe 1 or 2 lines, a formal request, let's put it that way, so that we can talk about it next
there's one
month
in
or
here
something.
tonight.
We have it in here.
why can't
Oh, we
you
have it in
amend
here for this,
what we're asking for?
for the Citizen Park?
Well, there is a request in here for a newspaper ad currently.
Oh, okay.
I think Mr. Clark's asking for something on top of that, which the board has already, I want to say, you brought it forward, the request for funds at one point, and the board had stated that we were willing, but bring us what it is you,
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I used the term budget, and maybe that's a little bit
yeah.
too far, but, so, okay, well, we could talk about it at that point, and maybe pass something at that point. I
Okay.
must have missed that when I was going through my packet.
Okay, if we are done, are we done? You did planning, okay. We're done with officer reports. Committee reports, anything for the crosswalk?
No, we haven't met again. Still just waiting on the report back from?
Yep, I've sent an email to Mike. He said now that he's done with the initial preparation for the roads, they'll have a little more time. Still haven't heard back, though. I do also have Roe keeping that up to date, too. Have you heard? Have you heard? So everybody is eagerly awaiting that. Our fire and ALS subcommittee, I don't know. As I said earlier, we
Yeah.
did meet.
You had mentioned that, we're just waiting to gather data. We got some data, I think you got it from Bruce.
Right.
And we're probably waiting for the data from Washington.
Yep, I received the requested information and passed that back on to on to Bruce. I did have a few more questions, still waiting to hear back
Okay.
from Supervisor Philbrook there. But,
But the
no,
process is going.
Yes.
It's just been started.
yeah, we have a year. We did this early so that
Right.
we do have enough time. And there are minutes, and they are in the packet, so if you would like to see those, you can either request them or look them up on the website. Moving into our unfinished business, our village fiscal year 23-24 budget resolution. I will go ahead and open this up. Do we have a motion, or are there some questions here?
Well, I'll make a motion, then we can do questions if we want, but I'll make a motion to pass the village budget for 2023 to 2024 as in our packet here.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Edwards, second by Parker. The floor is open for questions. We did have quite a few meetings on this. What do we have, 4? Tried to make you guys aware as possible along the way, include you and any questions you had.
The only.
There can always be amendments down the line. So,
The only follow-up question that I was waiting to hear back from Catherine, Chief's here, so I'm not sure if you can answer also, was when we discussed the additional officer and why there was also an increase in overtime, and I thought you were gonna look into that and see if we're adding someone, why is there gonna be additional overtime?
I thought you and I, did we discuss these? I know I brought some questions back to you after the meeting.
The additional officer was to replace the swing shift that we lost 4 or 5 years ago. The overtime, I thought the numbers were wrong.
Were they correct? Yeah, I remember you had a few incorrect numbers that.
Yeah, you corrected my numbers, but the next numbers are wrong.
Yeah,
It's still,
42,000.
Those can be.
Can you turn your mic on?
I know- Yes, because I know the chief and the accountant did sit down after the meeting with your concern, trustee Parker.
yeah.
Do those need to be adjusted? They can. She was
my initial thought at
asked
the
to
top of my
adjust-
head is that we had both things put in there. The budget was taking into consideration overtime because we didn't have somebody, but then also adding a full-time. And we did
Correct,
that without
until we
taking
get the
out.
full-timer.
Yeah, so there's a bit of an overlap until we get that person hired. There will be overtime. What that is, we won't know, considering how long it takes to hire that full-time person. So I think that's why both are in there. And they're both going to be amended and adjusted whenever that
yeah.
person comes in, and how long we've had to pay overtime being a man down and when that full-time person comes in. That's my thought.
So we can assume that, I hate using that word, but we can assume that once someone comes in, that our overtime hours will decrease.
I'd have to see the numbers that we went over. We went over them twice. And I gave her the same numbers both times. I thought I lowered the number of the overtime.
So
thought
did
she
I.
had it too high and I lowered the number. Whether or not that's the number that you guys ended up getting, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
But you're confident the budgeted 353 does include another new officer? Because when I looked back, that's the same number that was on the paper when we were having the conversation. So I just want to make sure that does, you're sure? Okay.
Oh, no, I'm not in understanding.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That was my only question, because that's the number we had on there, and I had notes that we were having a conversation about it, but now it's the same number, so I wasn't sure if that already included that officer, or Did it need to change?
It should reflect the new officer, because
Okay.
that discussion was taking place back in March in the accountant. And you and I have had that discussion with them also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
And if not, it will be adjusted when amendments come.
And that's in our favor to adjust it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? We do currently have a motion by Edwards, second by Parker. Could you call the roll?
Sure. Edwards?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
President Poznanski?
Yes.
Rosso?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, moving into an accounting RFP. Clerk Trap made a quick cheat sheet here at the top. We had 3 people apply. Oh, 2 people, sorry. Our current plant Moran and another company by the name of Reman, I'm
Freeman.
sure. If I had to go off the top of my head, I would pick the one that is obviously cheaper. It is also the one that knows us and our finances the best currently. We had this on our plate last month. We rejected the one bid to go back out for bid. Clerk Trap did post it. How many other places did you post?
3 other places outside of the original space that we had it the first time.
So that got us one more bid. I don't know what this council would like to do. At that point, last month, we did extend our current services one more month, just in case. Just as a reminder, that's where we're at.
I would like to make a motion to extend this currently for another month or 2 and send it out one more time. See if we can get a third bid.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Parker, second by Rousseau to, could you,
We'll say extend for 60 days and send back out for bid one more
Why don't
time.
we just do it for a year? I mean,
Where would you like me to do it? Because I feel I've exhausted all the avenues. If there's an avenue I haven't that I need to know of, that would be beneficial to let me know. Because I did the mitten, which is like the industry standard for all municipal items and work and government contractors and vendors. I did MML, I did the Macomb Daily, I did the Record newspaper. I did our website.
The last time with this went out and we got bids back, I thought, we had like 5 or 6, if I remember correctly.
5 or 6.
Yeah, well, we had like a big legal sheet with a ton of different people that had bid on it. So I guess
When
wherever
was
we-
that? We've
when
never, the only time we've ever gone out for bid with Plant Moran, because we hired them straight out when we first onboarded them. It's only been recently that we've been going out for bids for them.
yeah, I think you might be, we've done a lot of RFPs. You might be
Yeah,
thinking of a
maybe
different
I'm
one.
Confused. I mean, it's just surprising that we would only get 2.
Well,
back.
historically, we've generally worked with an individual. That is, with our last one, Mr. Sadowski was an individual, and before that, we've had individuals. These are firms, companies. In the past, we would go with what, account temps? Is that,
That is correct, yes.
and how did that work for
Oh,
the
no.
village?
That was not to our benefit. Well, we would like
That-
to
that-
not
I mean, we
go
have
down that path
options,
again.
but it doesn't seem like they're,
They're temporary, and that was it. They weren't vested in us, and some of them were lacking in the municipal accounting experience, because general accounting does not apply to municipal accounting.
completely different.
And Plant Moran's the low bidder by a considerable margin.
Right.
Plus, like you said, they know us already, and I just don't know if our usual packet goes out for 2 years or 3 years, or 1 year. I'm not
What does
sure.
this RFP have in it?
I believe it had 2
2
or
years?
3. Shoot, I don't have the RFP on me. Thought it was 2 or 3. I usually tried to limit that one to 3.
Okay.
3 max, but definitely at least 2. Sorry, I don't have that in front of me right now.
And another 5 year.
Catherine, on the Raymond bid, in their packet, it says they have a standard rate, which is what you included on the chart, and then there's also a discounted rate. Did they discuss with you what that
They
is?
did not. They did not discuss with me, and they did not make it clear, just based on their bid proposal. I do not speak to these companies prior to your guys' vote, because I don't want, and that's not an offered item. They do have the opportunity to submit any questions and discussions, and there's a cutoff date for that during the bid process, and nobody submitted any questions this time around. The first time around, I did get a lot of questions from other companies, and the gist I was getting was we needed a minimum of $120,000 budget for any other company to inquire. But to your question, no, nothing was spelled out as to what would qualify us for a discounted rate over a standard.
Because if you look at the discounted rate compared to Plant Moran, it's actually less for both the manager and the accounting consulting staff. The principal on the discounted rate's a little bit more, but not a lot. And we don't think, do you typically use the principal? I don't think so.
The principal has been at our meetings before, yeah, we've utilized them, or they're a part of our process when needed, definitely. We're familiar, like, we've been introduced to all of them, we know all of them.
Right.
We can
not
call
a-
them, email any of the, there's like 3 levels that we deal with.
Right. I mean, that's not someone that we deal with on a daily
Right.
interaction. That's a
But
special
if we-
question that once the initial person in the office can't answer, they defer to.
Yeah, so otherwise, their manager and accounting staff is less than Plant Moran, if we had the discounted rate. So I guess my question would be, can we reach out to them and ask them, why was that included? What is that about? Do we qualify for it? Because it would be nice if we could save a little money, but also when I looked and compared the 2 different packets, Raymond talked a little bit more about grant services being included, and then they also mentioned training services and an approach to budgeting, which is, better hours rather than more hours, so they might not work as much, if they're looking at doing better hours more rather than more.
Well, we're running into an issue with that in the office, that we have Plant Moran, they physically come in, and we would like them more, and if we need them more, they do come in. I don't know, like, what are they able to offer, like, physically? Like, the last few weeks since Danielle has come back from maternity leave, but her and Julie have been showing up in the office, so we've been having both of them in the office addressing a myriad of questions throughout the whole office, not just budget items. So if they're looking to, not interact with us in an office, that is kind of frowned upon with the staff. They have to utilize them
Yeah,
outside
that
of
really,
me.
I mean, on a daily basis, that just wouldn't work for us. There are
I
a
don't
lot of
think they're saying
questions.
they're not gonna interact, it's
Okay.
saying some of their services that they offer, their mission, their focus.
Gotcha.
Customized training, value-added services, a team for excellence and efficiency, technology, governmental professionals, and understand and appreciate our approach of budgeting better hours rather than more hours. And then they go through and talk about cross-functional team of business. They can handle challenging questions, they know Michigan Village. So they had a grant compliance and reporting. They mentioned some things that Plant Moran didn't, and it could just be that they mentioned different things in their bids, doesn't mean Plant Moran doesn't do it. But their package mentioned a lot of different things. They know BSNA, and their rates are lower. So I guess if we could get that lower rate, what it's about, I would be curious to know, which is why I second the motion for maybe waiting to see if we could find out what that's about.
Good catch.
Okay.
I would defer to Mr. Clark.
Oh.
How would we legally, could you turn your mic on if you speak? Thank you. How would we step this forward if we wanted to go back and ask questions? Are we rejecting all bids? How does that step forward here?
You do have to be careful. You cannot, or at least my advice is that you not negotiate with one bidder or the other based on what was presented. You've structured it appropriately, that you put out the request for proposals, sealed bids, I believe.
Yes.
And so when you get them now, you can't try to pit one against the other because that undermines the entire bid process. That everybody put their bid in based, I would assume, on the same parameters, the same bid package, and as Ms. Trapp mentioned, they had an opportunity to ask questions. And so I'm not saying that you cannot ask for additional information, but it shouldn't change the numbers in the bid, because then again, you've undermined your bid process. So if you want to resubmit it, or you want to change the parameters of your bid or the specifications in your bid, then I would reject these and start over. Otherwise, my advice is to, if you're going to make a decision tonight based on what's presented, that you do so without additional information, on the assumption that each bidder assumed that they were providing you with enough information for you to be able to make a decision. So you just have to be careful. I'm not saying you can't make further inquiries, but if the further inquiries are to negotiate a different outcome, then I recommend against that. I think that's wholly inappropriate based on the structure of the bid process.
And just to clarify, it's not to negotiate. They have two rates listed here, and I'm not exactly sure which one we would qualify
We just
for,
need
standard or
clarification.
discounted.
Right, so, but again, if they don't say what makes you eligible for the discounted rate, and you make that inquiry, and they say, oh yeah, you get the discounted rate, well, now they've, in a fashion, changed their numbers, because they would have been able to see Plant Moran's bid. And because now they're public, you've opened them, and they should be public. That's the procedure has been appropriately followed, but now you are, maybe not intentionally, but you are in essence negotiating, because if you ask them, why don't we get the discounted rate, and they look at Plant Moran's and they say, well, yeah, okay, you get the discounted rate. That causes me problems. I would recommend that you not do that.
So not ask them which one we
Well,
qualify
you
for.
can ask them, but then if they say you get it, and they didn't include it in their presentation, in their request in their request, or their response to the request for proposal, and they've looked at Plant Moran's, you don't know that their answer is based on an objective determination of how they allow or extend the discounted rate. So you could be leaving yourself open to a challenge by Plant Moran that, well, hey, they changed their number based on based on their disclosure, their knowledge of our number. And I looked at the pricing schedule, and I don't see an explanation in there for the discounted rate, but you can ask for it, but again, you're gonna step to the edge of the precipice about negotiating after bids have been opened, and I just caution you against that.
Okay, so you saw what they provided with the two different rates?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
I don't really understand why, and maybe they give municipalities, every municipality, a discounted rate. I don't know, but I would think if they wanted you to act on the basis of the lower number, there would have been some mention or explanation of how one qualifies for the discounted rate. And I did not see that in their materials. I'm not saying it's not in here, but I looked through it and I did not see that. And so I think for your budgeting purposes and your comparative purposes with the other bidder, you have to assume the standard rate, because without explanation, you could base it on the discounted rate, and then if you don't qualify, you're $15 an hour under.
So reading back through it after hearing the discussion, it sounds like they work off a hybrid, and it would be, I'm assuming, again, don't like that. On-site is standard, off-site is the discounted rate, and it's a hybrid approach, as their wording says in the first paragraph.
Are you sure that's not just their approach in general for how they,
But then it continues on to talk about the discounted hourly rates listed below.
Yep.
So it sounds like they're doing a combination approach instead of all on site.
how many days a week or a month does Plant Moran come on site?
They average about 1 to 2 per week.
I mean, it is worth noting that they don't charge us for gas and that Raymond charges
They do
actual
not.
cost for gas.
Correct.
And
And
they
they
come
are,
with a 5% increase every single year.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be past Plant
and,
Moran in
Oh, sorry.
a year.
oh, and currently Plant Moran, in the days they are not physically in our office, they do respond to all of our emails and phone calls,
Yeah.
even if they're in a different location.
So there is currently a motion on the floor, correct?
Yes, there's a motion by Parker, second by Rosso, to extend for 60 days and send back out for bid. Ready for roll call? Oh, sorry.
Are we good? We discussed it
Yeah,
enough?
thank you.
Okay. Okay. Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
President Poznanski,
No.
Care,
No.
Edwards.
No.
Motion fails 3 to 2.
I'd like to make a motion to go with Plant Moran.
For a time frame?
For whatever we went out for bid for, was it 2 years or 3 years?
3 years, okay.
3 years.
3 years.
I would support.
Second.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion by Care, support by Edwards, to go out, or to accept Plant Moran. Do we have discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. Oh,
I'm
hold
sorry.
on.
I was looking to find where it said 3 years. Is it in here actually?
That's their bid response. I did not include a copy of the bid packet that was on the website and all the,
Okay,
that's their bid response.
okay.
Okay, ready? Care,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
President Poznanski,
Yes.
Parker.
No.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, we move forward with that. Could we get clarification, though, that we make
Yes.
sure we know how many years we are in this
Yes.
contract
Apologies
with?
for not having that in there.
Okay,
Usually in the front page.
moving into our,
So, okay, so if it's not 3 years,
Then what happens?
yeah,
Nothing. The motion.
you made the motion
states
to go
length
with
of
the
time.
RFP.
Correct, yes.
So whatever the RFP says
Gotcha.
is what we'll be going with.
Thank you.
Yep.
But then I want to know, just for our confidence,
Yep.
yeah.
Is
I
that
thought
2
I
or
was
3
voting
years?
for 3
Okay.
years. So if I thought I was voting for 3 years and I wasn't, how do I resolve that?
Because what was stated was 3 years in
Yeah.
the motion.
The motion was 3 years.
Yeah, but now it's what the RFP is, so that could be different.
Oh, did you, if that's what you stated, then that's what it
That's what he
is.
They
stated.
stated 3 years.
Okay.
I can still clarify, though. Because like I said, I don't have a copy of the RFP. They just have their responses.
Okay.
I can rescind my vote because it's not going to matter anyway. But if it's not for 3 years, that was part of the motion I was banking on. Can I do that, Mark?
You can't rescind your vote.
Okay.
You can, somebody on the prevailing side can make a motion for reconsideration. The motion was for 3 years. It passed 4-1. If Ms. Trapp looks at the RFP and it says 2 years, she can either call Plant Moran and said, well, it was approved for 3, will you accept it for 3? And if they say no, well, then you don't have an acceptance because your approval was for 3. If Plant Moran says, sure, we intended 2, but we'll go 3, then you're all right. So I guess you have to decide where you want to be right now and then where you want to be if things are not as you are believing them to be.
So I guess two concerns. One, not so much if it's less, what if they come in and it's 5 years?
Well, you've only agreed
We
to
only
three,
agreed
Three,
so.
but then if we're,
So-
isn't that kind of renegotiating the terms of
No.
the RFP? If we can say, we're gonna give it to you for 3 years?
No,
And we
because-
didn't offer that to the other person to bid it at 3 years?
Well, it depends. If the RFP said 3 and they said 5 and you accept 3, then Plant Moran can, they would then limit, you're not negotiating with them, you're accepting what your RFP said. So I don't view that as a renegotiation. If the RFP said 3, then you voted for 3, and that's all Plant Moran gets. That's all the other one would get.
But like you said, if it says 2, and the other one bid on 2, and now we gave them 3, and their price would have been different at 3 years.
Well, again, my advice is based on the assumption that the RFP said 3.
Yeah,
If
okay.
the RFP did not say 3, then the only way that, if it said 2 and you put out 3, or approved 3, I think that's problematic. If
Okay.
the RFP said 3 and Plant Moran put out for 5, and you say to them, we approved 3, do you want it or do you not? Then they could reject it. If they say, no, it's 5 or nothing, well, then that's what it is.
Okay.
So,
So the reconsideration vote can happen at the next regular scheduled meeting?
it has to happen at the next meeting, I believe, not necessarily the next regularly scheduled. So my advice would be if you want to reconsider or place a motion on the table for reconsideration, you would do it at the next meeting, whether regular or special.
Catherine, is it still currently on our website, the RFP?
Possibly.
Where would I find it?
Public notices? May or may not be up there. Because they have expiration dates, so I might have taken it down.
No, we just have the street resurfacing in the planner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those need
Oh,
to come
wait.
down too. Those expired.
Accounting, here we go.
Oh,
Do you know what page where you would have put that at? Or would it be easier for you to look at this?
trying to think. It should be toward the front. Is it on the cover page? Sorry, don't let me choose that.
Nice catch.
Nope, if you want to go up.
We don't need to find it right now, do we? We
Okay.
can just bring this up at the next meeting?
I can
If
keep
it was
looking and
different?
bring it back. Is it in there? Okay, should have been the first one.
It's gonna take 10 minutes to find.
Okay,
We're at a point where it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
if we come back next month and it's not, and we need a reconsideration, then let's do what's necessary. Okay, moving into our village planner RFP. We received 3 bids for this, one of them from our current and 2 others. Does anyone want to make a motion or have questions?
Quick question. It looks like Kazalov is by far the least expensive, and I believe they're our current planner.
Correct.
Yes.
Does anybody have anything to comment? I mean, I don't interact with them at all. So does anybody have a comment about how they're doing?
Since I've been on, I've had good interaction with the representative that comes. I've got no issues.
Yes, Karen works very well. She's, whenever we reach out to her from the office, she's receptive and answers promptly. She works well with our office staff and has attended a couple of our planning meetings and does well interacting with, per se, our customers. So,
Well, based on those recommendations, I'd make a motion to accept the bid from Kazalov for the planning commission. I mean, she's by far good experiences with her and by far the least expensive.
I'll second.
okay, so we have a motion by Edwards, second by Parker to go ahead with Kazalov Planning. Any more discussion? Okay, could you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Sure. Edwards,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Excuse me, motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Moving into our IT services RFP. If you recall, we did this RFP. This step was missed. This is kind of, and a contract was signed. This was kind of our way to go back and make sure the step was done properly. As you can see from the bids, let me get it. We had 5. We are currently with the best option. SYO is who we are currently with, and that is the best option even after going out for bid. So no action needs to be taken, but we at least went, unless anybody wants to take action, we went out and covered our bases.
What kind of firewall or malware or that type of protection do we have with them? Is it, that's included in there?
We do have one, I'm sorry, we do
Go ahead.
have one, I just don't know the name of it off the top of my head, because going over their contract, I found all the receipts for them. We did pay for an initial firewall after the cyber attack, and then we do maintain any other security yearly as required by, or as recommended by SYO.
Yeah, most of them are yearly subscriptions
Yeah.
that
I
are
mean,
all,
there
like
was-
renewed.
One upfront cost, but then they're renewed as
And-
necessary.
We manage that separately, so SYO doesn't do anything with that, or do they?
They're the ones that manage it. They
They
manage
manage
our
it,
server,
these.
yes.
Okay.
They manage our server, which what I found concerning at some of these, we're talking, like, we own our server. We bought our server, SYO maintains it, and I didn't understand what they were saying by leasing a server. That made me very uncomfortable to see that. And also, just to give you a heads up, though, as it is explained, these prices right here are for the current bids. SYO, when the service contract was renewed last year by the previous president, it's at $444. So like President Poznanski just said, if we make no decision and go as we currently have an agreement with them, as signed by the previous president, we're at $444 a month.
Okay.
We scrap that and start all over and choose them out of these bid packages, our price does go up.
Okay, and then how much do we pay for the annual firewall, do you know?
Not off the top of my head. It's, I would say it's no more than $250 a year, but I do have the receipts, they're at
That's
the
okay.
office right now, but, yeah.
Close enough.
But the initial firewall, I think, was like around 1,300 or something. It was, but that was up front. We're fine with that now.
Okay, thanks.
90% of the time we go with the lowest bid. I just look at these and how are they so much lower? You know, what are these other companies doing or what are they not doing to, it seems, how do you justify that? I mean, the closest one's like 10 grand. How do you justify, and that's just the annual. I mean, and then the monthlies are,
Off the top of my head, in the limited time I've been with SYO, I would say that has to do with employment and how many employees.
Yeah, there you go.
We're working with like a 1, 2, 3-man show. Those other ones might be large corporations with more overhead, but that's just an idea.
I mean, just to put it back on the one we were just looking at with the accounting services, and we went with a larger company, you guys were opposed to the one-man operation because you thought that that provided a better service for the village. but now we're just looking for the cheap one that is smaller in size. I guess what would we be getting in benefit from another company, like we're justifying with our accounting services?
It's a good question, because it is significant.
I'll say, I'm sorry, I'm not following that question.
I missed the question.
This was,
So you said.
These all
you
bid
had
the
made
same
comment
thing.
Before that, we were going with a temp service or a one-man operation for our accounting services and how that was no good, lots of problems, so we stepped up to quite a significant amount more to go with a larger, more well-known accounting service company. We're kind of looking at the same thing here. What would we get, or what would the village benefit with going from a better, I shouldn't say better, but a larger firm? I mean, there's got to be something different that's offered for those price differences. I just can't see, $40,000 a year compared to just shy of $6,000 a year. That to me doesn't even seem like it was bid apples to apples.
They were responding to the same RFP, weren't they?
Yes, they are. There was only one
Yeah,
RFP that
and-
went out.
yeah, it's a proposal, it's not a quote, it's not a request for quote, so there's not, when you do an RFP, it's not apples to apples. You put out there what you would like, and then you leave it open-ended, and some
Yeah.
people come back with other things, so.
And in all their responses, a lot of them had like canned presentations. It's basically what they gave us was their presentations, not necessarily following the RFP, which I found a little frustrating. So that's why I did this chart as best as I could, trying to get the apples to apples.
Yeah.
Yeah,
see that.
they gave me what they wanted to give me.
Yeah, because I read through them, and I'm not a techie, but I couldn't necessarily find all the apples to apples.
Right.
Although I did find that one mentioned protection from the dark web and phishing, and I wonder if our firewall includes dark web and phishing, or if any of these other. It's something maybe to ask or look into or find out, because that's worse than, a lot of other things. But
Right.
one company specifically protected against that, but I couldn't find apples to apples on any of it. So I guess, are you asking, like, are we not getting something we should be because the price is so different?
Yeah, that would be my concern. And like you stated, I'm not the tech guru to understand a lot of this, so that's where it's difficult.
Right, and some have approached me, or as I was reading through, if you have an issue, we call, and they're like, okay, so, we'll submit a ticket. I'm like, what the heck is that? When we call SYO, they're on it in 5 seconds, or they're physically in our office in 20 minutes, because their offices are literally 20 minutes away. We don't have this ticketing process that hopefully by the end of the day we'll hear back from somebody. So I don't know if that's obviously going to be different in a larger firm, where, the calls are going to be at a greater volume, and we're in that to-do list somewhere. So that's one thing to consider.
Does SYO ever come on site?
Oh, they're on site, yeah.
When we need something, it's
When
not
we
like
need
they're just
Yeah.
generally hanging out in the office, but yes, if we need something, after one of the last storms, our backup battery,
Oh, yeah.
blew. They ordered it, and had it in there within 2 to 3 days. As soon as they received it, it was put in.
You got it. And then do they back up to a cloud or anything for us?
It's all on the server. We don't utilize the cloud at the village. No, it's on the server. We haven't gotten there.
Company, staying as is?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to that much of a cost difference,
Yeah, that was the.
nobody said that for that much more money, they were going to be giving us some great grand things. So if it's not in here, I think they just want more money from us.
Okay, I'm good with that. No motion needed.
Okay, moving on into our sidewalk repair closeout. So I included in here an email for you guys. So when this was first bid out and the contract was awarded, we spec'd out, or there was a cost estimate for 220 yards of lawn repair, basically, that this would disturb that much, and to fix it would be whatever the cost was there. However, once the project was done, they would like 1,105 square yards, which is a cost difference of $31,860, so essentially $32,000. That this came to me, this initial email of that issue came to me in December. Being newly elected and coming in, that just seems insane to me. So I went with what our professional suggested. He had talked back and forth with them, and at that point they would accept 440, which was double what we first agreed upon. So I said, okay, we'll do 440. From there, they're continuing to press the issue. I have told, this is why I'm bringing it to you, because I told Mike, I said, I'm new to this world of municipal contracts where someone can come in and tell me it's a certain price, and then when they're done, they can up it $30,000 and expect to get it. That just seems absurd to me. So the second sheet that you have in here is, the money is there. It's there in the sidewalk extension, and it's there with the public improvements. So the money is there if we wanted to do this. Mike is suggesting, the company is being pretty insistent. He's suggesting that we go up to, where is it? I'm pretty sure that they would accept somewhere in the neighborhood of 900, which is still well over 300 times over what we initially approved, and that would be another cost. So that is a cost difference of $8,000.
I think it said the highest he thinks we should go with 700.
Okay.
Second to last line there.
Gotcha, yep.
Yeah.
Which still, if they bid out at 220 and they want 700, my answer is, well, you knew what you were the parameters you were supposed to stay within, and you threw caution to the wind, and you disturbed more than you should have. That's not a cost that we should bear. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here going forward, because I'm not quite sure if we continue to say this, where this will end up, if it might be in Mark's corner at that point. So I just want to make us all aware of this and say, hey, are we all on the same page with that stance? Because that's where I'm at.
So the highest we agreed to was 440.
At this point, we've given them 100%.
Yeah, originally it was
Over what they bid,
220 in
yes.
the bid.
And to me,
440.
We did agree to 440
Yes.
eventually, right?
yeah, to me, that's more than nice enough, and probably nicer than we should have been.
Yeah, they had
But
instructions and they
this-
went past them. That's not our problem. I mean,
So, Madam President, you said you were looking at the legal end of it. What did you find in the contract, like if they run over, did we have an obligation?
Oh, I don't know all the language in that.
But we
Mark
didn't,
might.
we essentially didn't have an, or, do you have a question, answer to that?
Might want to have Mark look at that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have to agree with you, Megan. I mean, I wouldn't just go out paying them another $30,000 because they're asking for it.
Right. I mean, they came in as the lowest bidder. We approved them because they're the lowest bidder, and then when you come back with something like that, you weren't the lowest bidder
Right.
in the end. So,
Yeah.
Usually on a project like that, when there's, like that, they bid 220, we agreed 440. If they're asking for more, usually there's what they call an extra. They usually come to you prior to doing the work to get approval, not just go ahead and do it and then
Yeah.
want the money.
right.
And
Well-
Like Mike stated in the email too, it says, but more area was disturbed than should have been during the construction. So I think they were just careless.
Right. They also cut a local businesses that is neighboring to the project, their,
Sprinkler?
yes, their irrigation lines. So, in the middle of the project. So that is a bill that we are submitting also to the contractor to pay for that.
That one might be tough.
Yeah, but you know what? That's only $2,000 or $3,000, and I would take the village comping the $2,000 to $3,000 for the irrigation over $30,000.
Yeah. Most of the time that's covered in any underground work anything that's not detectable by misdig, they're not held responsible.
But I'd feel more
for.
comfortable if Mark took a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's where we're at with that. So I just wanted you guys to know and see that this is where we're at.
So we'll table till next month on this one?
Yeah, I mean, there's really
No action.
not much to, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then moving
Stick to
into
guns.
the property donation. I don't know if you guys had a chance, obviously I had a chance to look over this map.
Yeah, been out there.
So if you look at the map, the shaded brown triangle in the middle towards the right is what could be the proposed parking lot. Then you have the large pink, whatever shape you would call that, outline. That is where, I don't know.
State? Is that the runway stuff?
Yes, nothing should be under that. So they're even going to have to move their road from underneath it. So essentially, that only leaves us to the edge of that triangle to use as a parking lot, which MDOT isn't saying no, but they're saying it's going to be tricky. And how far do you want to go with this, Romeo? And do we continue with this? That's kind of where we're at. And then if you look at the map, there's a bit of that corner that could be the parking lot comes at a curve in the road.
Yeah, it's pretty nice angle there.
Which could then mean road work shouldered,
Deceleration
yes.
lane, yeah.
And who's going to pay for that? So we're kind of at the point of, yeah, this is great, but considering the steps forward, how much does Romeo want to keep walking forward in this?
Yeah, I think it's a nice offer, but I think we should gracefully decline.
Unless some other alternative could,
I guess I don't really see any advantage that we're gonna get out of this.
No,
Right.
I mean, it does get pretty wet back there sometimes,
Yep.
and,
yep. And assets cost money to maintain.
yeah.
So we're at the point where we no longer want to step forward?
You need a motion?
I don't think so. I mean, unless you guys want to make it official.
No, I just would
I just-
let it go.
Okay, that's my initial, reaction. I just wanted to check with you guys.
Say
and-
thank you, but sorry.
Okay. Okay, on to our social media policy update. Went back, corrected a few words that we spoke about it last month. I also did one extra thing. I had noted that the name of the page had been updated at a certain point, so you also see that on red in the second page, that the Facebook page had started out as Romeo Village Hall, and it was updated on April 14th, 22 as the Village of Romeo, so I just wanted to restate what the official name of the page was there. And then on the third page, you see the other language. We were asked to also include the treasurer. Although the current treasurer has no interest, it doesn't mean that a future treasurer may not, so we added the treasurer in there. And I changed at the point, shall designate an individual for task access. That is the specific term that Facebook uses. You can give them as many tasks as possible, however, they will not be in charge. They could not shut down or kick off an admin. So that is the proper language there. So, any comments?
Do we have any other mediums of social media besides Facebook?
Not currently.
Under the goal, it mentions the main function of the account. And it's to keep residents informed in a timely manner of relevant news affecting their lives in Romeo. And considering how this page gets used and, I mean, obviously, we're all elected officials. Can we add a line that the posts remain relevant news and not necessarily self-serving? Or what could be perceived as self-serving?
I think we could add anything we want. I think I would like more specific wording there, because that could be left pretty open-ended.
Well, relevant news, things relevant to everybody and what's happening and how that impacts their lives. Sometimes, because I follow the page and I've read it, sometimes there appears to be posts that are more to be one person promoting themselves. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I'd like to see that covered where it can't be self-promoting or construed as maybe
Campaigning or?
campaigning or being derogatory towards someone else, or, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's happened, and then people get in squabbles about it on the page, and so if we just put something in there about, relevant news to me is, you know, shred day, and, traffic lights out, and phones are out, and, we've got a new officer, and that kind of stuff, but it's not necessarily,
Look what I did. Type of post.
yeah,
Is that what you're getting at?
yeah, potentially, or I disagree with this person, or, you know, let me clarify at some meeting this happened and I want the community to know, you know, that's not necessarily the forum for it either. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying. I guess some of those I see differently as, do the people not want to know what their clerk is doing, or what their president is doing, or what their treasurer is doing? So I don't see, yes, we are political people, but just because we post about the daily workings doesn't mean it's a political advertisement. It's what's going on, but
Yeah,
I guess it could be, depends on how it's worded.
exactly. And I agree with you.
But
It
again,
is important
who-
to know, but sometimes it doesn't come off that way, and so it's a very gray area. But if we have the people who are monitoring it, I would want to empower you if you felt like, this isn't really relevant and it's not sharing what the, you know, the community's doing or what the clerk's doing. I would want the clerk, the president, or the treasurer to feel like, yes, it falls within our policy. I think I should remove it.
Right.
So it should be more business, not like the I Love Romeo page or the Downtown Romeo page. It should be more business oriented.
More like
Yeah.
Thanksgiving in the treasurer's report, or the clerk's report, or the president's report, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Does that make sense?
see that? That makes sense.
Well, again, I would just defer to asking you, to be more specific? Because again, what I could construe, or the clerk, or anybody could construe as relevant information, interesting is one of the things, like,
Yeah.
it might be
I
of an
don't
interest
have-
that our clerk goes to clerk school, or that we,
Well, okay.
so there's that's very open-ended.
It
So
is.
do you want to take away some stuff and add in, I don't know,
No, let me say it like this. There has not been anything that I have read very recently that caused me any concern. But knowing how social media policies work, and since we're addressing it, in the past, there has been.
yeah, no, we're not
So-
taking any offense. I'm just throwing out current examples that I can think of the last posts that we've done.
None of those are what I'm
I did one
referencing.
when I signed the bond for us, you know, we were excited, we were all, it was a big relief for us to finally do that. And that was
Yes.
something that everybody took a part in. So we put a picture, hey, we finally signed this, it's official.
That's not what I'm referencing.
But to some people, that could be construed as to what you're saying, though.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm asking for more specifics,
Well.
or a way to specifically word it. And if you guys want to kick this back to me,
Yeah.
and we want to work on this later and
Yeah.
not completely do it,
Yeah, I think
we
it-
can come back next month with more specific wording if you'd like.
I can do that. I'm thinking just words of like judgment. You know, if you judge it or perceive it to be not relevant or not useful.
I mean, in the policy, there's language that says if something's not relevant, then we have the right to delete it anyway. So there's already a checks and balance there.
Well, that's referencing
Mean-
someone's comments. It's not referencing what we've actually posted ourselves.
So I guess we could just
So-
make that apply to all content, not just specifically comments. I mean,
Yeah.
there'd be a checks and balance between the president, clerk, and treasurer then in that case. It's,
And that's fine if it's not something that's a concern. I just know I have read things in the past, not recent, that it was no place for that conversation. And so why we're addressing it, I'd like to try and eliminate that happening again, but you can't be specific in saying, you can't say this, you can't say that. It has to be.
It's going to, at
to
that
your
point,
judgment.
be at the whim of the president and clerk and treasurer at that time, whoever that is.
Right.
And then that will be up to that board.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
So unless you want to literally change this language, we are doing our best. I personally do specifically change some posts that I do feel or question myself on, because I do have my own president page, and I post those there and keep everything in the village page informative, things that everybody would like, whatever.
Right.
So I do try my best to check myself. But going forward, unless we literally specifically put language in here, that's again going to be up to the president at that time and the clerk.
I get
So,
that.
do we
I'm
wanna-
just trying to offer the language so that the tools are there.
Okay,
But if-
so then let's table this till next month,
Okay.
and you can we can set up a time and let's dig into it farther.
Sure.
Okay, let's
Okay.
table the policy.
Mark might have some good input on that.
Yeah.
Okay, now moving into our village park permit. This is another update. We talked about it last month. Clerk Tratt made the adjustments that were requested, and now here it is before us again. Do we have discussion?
I just wanted to update, I did take out about, like, the bringing in of, like, the tents and, like, bouncy houses, because that did make it sound like it's an event, that's gonna be a separate permit altogether, so that language has been removed. And I put in blue, because I know we were talking about, like, local, community entities, filling out the application, but because they're like community partners with us waiving the fee. But that's how I have it worded in the blue. I'm open to any edits. And I also did find a draft of a rental permit is in process right now too. So I have that. I didn't find this till late afternoon, so that's why I did not make it to your packet.
Under the signs directing guests, I know we have ordinances for that. Do you want to add something that's, they're not putting them all over easements and other yards and
Right of ways.
within ordinate limits or something?
Like for the, I think I know what you're saying. So if they're interested in having a sign up like way prior to their event, they would have to follow this village sign policy.
Well, yeah, that, and it's under decorations, saying signs directing guests are permissible, but must be disposed. So they might need to know where they are and aren't permissible.
Okay, so we
That
would
makes
just
sense.
set up like what's a decent parameter, like no farther than the parking lot?
Per our ordinance, right?
Well, per our ordinance, that's,
Isn't a lot of that discussed in the side ordinance? You can't have anything in easements.
correct.
The right of way.
But if they just want something, I mean, would you want them to follow the sign ordinance? Let's say if they put it at the edge of Newberry, like in front of, like in the easement of the Masonic Lodge, or like, so-and-so's bridal shower is this way. Do we want to establish a location to go with the gazebo permit that is outside of the sign ordinance? Because the sign ordinance, they have to follow all that if they want to go someplace, anywhere else in the village.
Yeah, so per the sign ordinance, they couldn't set anything up on the sidewalk.
Correct, okay.
So we would have to either include something in here or tell them they gotta follow that ordinance, or we put up some type of
Will we allow?
finding or something. We could put
Right.
something up ourselves and they could use that, like a changeable sign.
Will we allow anything in the lawn? Maybe should address this now. Are we going to allow them to put any lawn signs in? Like,
Well, I think we're
because
talking.
I know we've had some questions for events coming up.
We're talking two separate things. This
Okay.
is a gazebo permit, and with the gazebo, I don't think they're going to need to have a sign directing them to
Okay.
the only gazebo in the village park.
Right.
But that's just me. I
for
think
people coming from
separately,
out of town.
we're talking about an event, and then you rent the rest of or you reserve the rest of the park. Now we have, I mean, you're only going to put a sign there, and if you're already there, you're there. The signs, I mean, there's really.
So we can remove that?
Yeah,
I think
maybe we
so.
could put up a village sign that says gazebo with arrows.
I think if you're,
We've got signs for parking lots.
Yeah.
That would be nice. That would take care of a lot. I mean, we could strike that bullet and do something like that.
Yeah, that might be
Get
good.
one of those nice, like, parking lot this way, one of those
Yeah,
nice signs
parking,
that
gazebo,
the
village
DDA
park.
put up years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, that makes it easier.
Yeah, because that's going to be a new destination now in the village, is the gazebo all over again. Oh,
I prefer that you don't give permission to violate a village ordinance.
Okay.
Because they're doing that.
Yeah, but the gazebo sign, like I'm thinking about, would hang off the streetlight.
yeah, that would be permanent.
Yeah, if you.
Wayfinding,
if you
yeah.
put up a village sign, that's a great idea. Village park.
Yeah, because we have a couple around town that say parking and
Yeah.
they're on, yeah, and if we just have a
Okay.
village park,
If you get a permit, don't give them the opportunity to put out signs
No.
on telephone poles or in the middle of the
Right.
street
Okay.
or anything.
That-
Right.
That's a good way to put it, village
Yep.
park and gazebo, so that they know where to
Right.
go.
So we can remove that bullet then from the policy.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And then the lighting fixture or lights are allowed with written approval by the village clerk. Is there guidelines on that, like on what's allowed or what isn't? Or is it, do they have to present something saying this is what I want to do? And then we have a list of,
Correct, because from what I understand, we don't have anything like for temporary lighting, any guidelines. So, I mean, that's the best I could come up with is, yeah, please present it to the village offices for review.
I guess again, though, this is just solely for the gazebo. So is this pertaining to additional lights in the gazebo? Are you talking about like a twinkle Christmas lights on the structure?
Yeah, I would shy away from anyone attaching anything
Right.
to the structure at all.
Nailing into it and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that bullet point, then we can just say no additional lighting fixtures are allowed and then end the sentence right there.
Yeah.
Because there's lights in there.
right,
So if you're
right,
getting married there, it's generally going to be daylight.
right.
Yep, well, you can take that out.
Okay.
And then on the very front page, under reservation process, it's on, obviously first come, first serve, interested in reserving, must contact the village clerk via phone or email. Can we add village clerk, at Village Hall, phone or email, so they know they can walk in to do it as well?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. That's all I had.
Email clerical spelling errors, we're not gonna go through them.
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
Email any clerical errors to you, we don't need to go over them. now.
Yeah, those can be emailed, that's fine.
Okay, and then the last thing we were still unsure about is the last page with the fees. Are we, we were tired and at the end of our meeting last month, so,
Yeah, I
we all
don't
good with this? Are we good with these
recall
prices?
Where we left off at that.
Do we have any precedents for them? I mean, I'm good with them, I just don't know if,
I don't know, Catherine, where did you grab them from? Thin Air, or didn't you look into Ann Arbor or somebody else that had a?
Well, no, the majority of the policy came from Ann Arbor. When I was a part of Ray Township, we had gazebo fees, pavilion rental fees, and they were somewhat similar. They had the resident, non-resident. But because the structure was less, the resident was $100, non-resident was $150. And I just took that and thought, well, this is a brand-new structure, and everything is brand new in the village park, for maintenance items. This was I just pulled these,
Well,
just
and
did
we-
some math on these, so these are negotiable.
We talked over the time that it takes, that when the person walks in the
Oh, yeah.
door versus Cindy's hourly time,
Yep, and that's the breakdown underneath all these.
having to check, making sure that it is cleaned
Are
prior,
involved.
cleaning up after. That cost was covered, but not too inflated.
So part of the 2 and 400 would be for DPW or whoever to make sure the trash is taken out. And
Correct.
Clean prior and then after, but then if there's any additional hours, it would be at that rate? Is that what?
Well, no, these are just to let you know that, behind the scenes, this is what
This is what based it off
these
of. These were some of the
employees
prices.
are that's what it costs to have these employees behind the scene with this event.
Okay.
But we
So
don't-
again, a rental on a Saturday in DPW, I just don't see, if you had to have a guy go out before and after a 4-hour event, or is it 3-hour, 4-hour event, what's that gonna cost?
Or they could just, if they are notified ahead of time, would put out extra trash bins Friday and just know that Monday there'll be extra trash to pick up there.
Which still, the issue of if we have a Saturday and then a Sunday, or a Saturday morning and then a Saturday afternoon, who's gonna clean that? Who's gonna make sure that's prepared? If we're charging a fee to use a clean gazebo, who's gonna do that? And if we have to pay staff, that's what I'm asking, would that be the additional hourly to have it cleaned up? And then who pays it? The person before or the person after?
They wouldn't be charged this fee. They would be charged a flat fee. These are just,
Those are just.
they wouldn't get a bill saying, okay, you owe $26.65 for 2 hours. They wouldn't be getting that. That's why the flat fees are slightly inflated to accommodate for any extras that could arise.
And that's what I'm still getting. If we have to pay DPW, what is the minimum, Tim?
Approximately $160.
$160.
For somebody to come in.
Someone to come.
On a
Yeah, because
weekend?
you're talking a weekend with overtime. Yeah.
If we have back-to-back,
So,
which right now I don't have any weekend reservations. They're all weekday.
I get it. I mean,
Right.
this is gonna be in effect for the whole
Yes.
moving forward.
Most weddings and showers and all that such do
So I mean,
take
Yeah.
I guess at 400, it's covered, and we can compensate if we need to for residents.
I mean, I think it's just a nice service we can provide as a village. If we're absolutely getting burned on it, we can just revisit it and change it at that time.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
we're giving it to charities for free. I think it's just nice to have a community gazebo. It's just a
Bless you.
service we're providing as a.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. I mean,
Great
currently, the old
destination.
one, you didn't, I mean, you reserved, I don't think there was any.
I mean,
fee.
these are just guesstimates. I mean, they can be
Yeah.
changed
Let's just
as
how
we
it
see
works
fit.
out.
Try it out for a year and see where we're at.
Yeah.
Will you be able to track for a year the ins and outs of it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
Awesome.
So if you have more than one event in a day, are you arranging to send someone out in between events? Or no?
Well, that's a good question because that hasn't happened yet. So to establish a policy or a procedure about that, it looks like I would be talking with Tim.
Yep.
And
My opinion would be-
organizing the staff
My opinion
appropriately.
would be, somebody comes and calls and says they want to reserve it for a 4-hour. When the second person calls, we will, I would say to them, if you want to reserve this, you will have this extra cost because we will have to ensure that it's clean for you. Or would you like to waive that and you're going to sign off that you're waiving, that we come check it out and we won't charge you that extra fee?
I don't think charging the
Yeah.
second person the fee, the full fee makes sense. That's where I think like the flat fee would cover half from each one. You're gonna have cleanup after the event regardless. I don't think we're gonna charge them extra.
I don't think it needs to be double cleaned in one day. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think it's
just-
fair to the second person to
Yeah.
clean up the other person.
No, but you're saying, are we going to come back and make sure it is? And I'm saying,
That's what I'm-
I
no,
think
I'm
that-
putting that on them, that if they want us to ensure that it is, then they're going to have to pay for us to come out and ensure that it is.
I thought that was part of the fee, the flat fee.
I would agree with, I think
Yeah.
that'd be part of the fee, and you have to make arrangements with Tim and his group.
Or we only do one a day.
Correct, or we can have that restriction, just 1 4-hour block per day.
200 for resident, 400 for non-resident.
I'd find it, I think doing one per, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I think one per day seems easier to navigate, is whether it's clean or not. Plus, you want that property open for other people to use. If you start getting all those reservations, then people can't enjoy it. I mean, it's
Right.
great
Right.
that we've got a lot of reservations, but that's not the purpose of it.
I
Correct.
guess in that year, when you come back with the data and you say, hey, we passed up 5 double bookings or,
Right.
100, then we could reevaluate then in a year
Yeah.
and say, yeah. do we
Raise
wanna-
the rates.
Right.
I mean-
So could we just put wording in here then that we could just only have one rental a day?
Okay.
So I don't think taking on more work in the first year and trying to work out all the kinks.
Yeah.
Okay, so am I just re-editing this and bringing it back?
Yeah, we'll bring it back next month with the edits. Okay, our travel policy. Again, we have a draft here. We've not had a travel policy. This was a compilation of about 3 different communities. I kind of cut and pasted, pulled from what we would benefit or would make sense for our community and our size. Passed it on to the clerk and the treasurer. Their comments are here, as you can see. And I was passing it on to you guys for further comments as we continue to walk this forward. Or if you have any comments on their comments.
Anyone?
The daily rate for meals is $50. Is that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Correct. For the whole day. Generally, when we go, or I actually haven't gone on a conference, but in general, there have often foods included. You get continental breakfast, there's usually a lunch, sometimes there's a dinner, so there's not many meals that do need to be purchased.
Great.
But this allows for if that just happens to not be the case. We also have in here, the village will not be paying for alcoholic drinks, that sort of stuff.
What about gratuity?
I believe that's in there.
Yeah, it
Shall not
has it
exceed
won't
20.
exceed, but,
Oh, that's,
Correct.
it's highlighted in green.
yeah, so we
Yeah.
want to keep that in there, that it'll include gratuity?
Yeah, no, to not extend 20%, exceed 20%.
Is that included in the $50? Or is that beyond?
Less gratuity.
Less gratuity, yes, thank you.
Okay.
That part's highlighted.
Okay.
On the lodging, maybe include something like travel time. Like if it's within an hour, I don't see a reason to have lodging. Would be my, that's how, anywhere I've ever went for trainings or conferences for employers, if it's within a normal travel day, I mean, there's people that drive an hour to work every day. So to go to and from a conference, I don't think. within
Do you
an
want to
hour,
quantify this?
Certain miles, whatever.
As I said, do you want to quantify it by time or mileage? Because obviously driving into the city, driving into Detroit
Yeah.
might be close,
Rush hour,
but
so
you're going to
you'd
be,
probably need
but
mileage.
time-wise not. Some of these end at 9 o'clock at night, though. I would
That is
just
correct, yep.
Like, to keep that in mind, so that we're driving back at 9 o'clock at night, and then going back and starting at, some of them start at 8 in the morning.
8 a.m. is typical.
So that would be why, if it was within that hour, someone would stay over.
Yeah, I would put a mileage on it, certain amount of miles. I'll look and see it, what the policies were that I've used before, and recommend something.
Well, usually if it's an overnight situation, the group putting up the event.
Correct.
Will provide suggestions.
There's usually a conference,
Usually-
has room
Right, yep.
packages, and it's
Right.
discounted already for
I
those
guess I
attending.
would prefer to stay with those kind of things.
And I think in general, you always have, I don't know,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
not done it.
Because they always provide discounted rates if you're with the conference.
Are you the only one that attends conferences and stays overnight, or does it happen in other departments?
The treasurer has.
And the president has in
The
the past.
past,
I'm sorry.
our benefit
The
coordinator.
president has in the past. I have not too.
Yes. Our zoning administrator has in the past, and our payroll benefits coordinator has in the past.
Okay.
They're not consistent, but just
Yeah.
us three electeds have more.
Most of the time after the meeting is a lot of time spent talking with other clerks around the state, and a lot of information is passed along just in casual fashion over dinner or things of that nature.
Correct. That- a
And
lot of
so
these
I
are
think that's
that.
a very valuable time.
So what if we put like a time or a distance with some type of open option with extenuating circumstances to be
Right.
prudent based on safety or time
Right.
or, you know what I mean? So it's not an automatic.
Yeah, because in the
But-
past, I've gone to trainings in Lansing, and it's been just a 9 to 5. It was that one time. Would that fall within the limit of miles of whatever we would propose? Yeah, probably. But is it appropriate because there's not another day? No. So you're going to come home after that. You're not going to then stay the night or stay the night
Right.
before.
Right.
So yes, each situation is a
Yeah.
bit
I see
different.
Lansing falling outside of that miles, but like Sterling Heights, no. You know what I mean?
Well, it's discretionary by the clerk either way, so it seems ridiculous. Nobody's gonna stay at the Romeo Motel to come to this meeting.
why not?
But it also depends, like, what if someone, if you're going down, let's say you have to go downtown to Detroit for your seminar, and it's on Thursday and Friday. It ends at 6 o'clock Thursday, and you've got to be back 8 AM Friday morning, but you're in the middle of January and there's gonna be snow. Like, you wanna have that option for somebody, if there's going to be snow, and it's a late night and an early morning, but if it's June and it's still light till 10 o'clock and there's no snow, do you really need to stay the night, come back?
In my
So-
opinion, yes. That's just what I was talking about. Because that's where you get to bond with other clerks around the state or other presidents around the state, and you can share a lot of information, and you can learn a lot, and build a lot of relationships that way.
Right.
If you're heading out at 5:01 to be back at 8:01,
Yeah.
you're never gonna build a bond with anybody.
Right, but if there's no bonding going on, you wouldn't mind if they came home? Like if everyone
Oh,
else
I'm not
is-
gonna fight them if they wanna come home.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but,
But I think there's a lot of value to
right.
bonding and learning who your other,
Well, and at that point, you have to pre-book these rooms in your
Right.
block. You can't just go, oh, I actually am gonna stay overnight. Anyway.
Right, and you know based on what your conference is, so that's why there's gotta be some leeway of, yeah, there needs to be parameters, but there also needs to be at the discretion of, or, so you just have to be prudent and respectful of the taxpayers' money, and somehow build that in, that maybe travel upon approval or something, that it's not an automatic.
Lodging.
Lodging,
approval,
yeah,
plus you're paying mileage to and from each way.
Well, it does say
You're
in the
paying for
approval,
meals on the road.
in the approval,
You're still paying for all these things
Mm-hmm.
that could, I won't say they add up maybe to a night on at the hotel, but
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna chew up a chunk of that.
right.
Yeah,
But if you don't
it's
have
an 8
any
to 5
pro-
conference, 2 days in a row, 30 miles away, I don't see how we could justify paying for that.
If you don't have
If you're
any,
home
yeah,
at-
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, too much coffee. If you don't have any parameter, then you've got Catherine having to say, I don't think you need to stay the night, because you're 20 miles away, and it puts her in a position, or whoever the clerk is, in a position of having, so if you have at least some type of parameter, it just keeps things neat. It's not saying that it applies to every scenario, or every conference, or every seminar. It's just doing your due diligence and having the policy in place that.
so are you asking for something to be added? We have here under the approval, the village clerk is authorized to grant permission for trips and conferences. All out-of-town travel must have prior approval of the village clerk. And then we go into supervisors, and then you have employees who have travel plans, need to make their own plans. Out-of-state travel requires village president approval also. Whether possible arrangements for travel shall be billed or prepaid, limiting the employees' or officials' personal expense. And then you go into that lodging where we talk about officials' employees will be reimbursed for the actual cost of lodging on approved out-of-town travel. So first, it has to be even approved by the clerk. So what else would you like to see in here? So that I can edit appropriately.
I think if
You
it's
want
gonna be-
miles? How many miles would you want?
I think that's vague. I mean, I just think that that's a vague term because you're counting on the weather, counting on this, that. I mean, the miles might just, get blown away. It doesn't really matter if you're 50 miles away or 150 miles away. You're not gonna drive, you don't want your employees driving back through snowstorms.
Right.
Right.
So we don't want to put any, so we don't want anything
I would
there.
say leave it up to authorization either from the village president or the village clerk.
Okay.
I would say let's list a mile amount. I mean, there's people that drive to and from work in a snowstorm all winter, driving an hour and a half all the time. And if you book a conference in the winter, you may have snow, you may have an issue, within a certain miles, we'll cover a hotel. If not,
If it's a
Sorry.
one-day conference, I'd agree with you. But if it's a two-day conference, I can't agree with that.
conference in Utica, we're 2 days, 3 days, we're gonna pay for a hotel.
We don't have a conference in
I'm just saying, that's why, let's list it and tighten it up. If we don't want it, then why even have the policy at all? I mean, it just, everything's per the clerk's discretion, no policy, let's move on.
Unless it's out of state, then you also need the president's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Unless you're out of, the training is out of state, then you would need approval by the president also.
Well, who, for the president and the clerk, who authorizes their conferences and trips? Because it says department heads and then clerk, but what about the clerk and the president? Who authorizes theirs?
The clerk would approve mine.
And then you approve the clerk's?
It's not what it says.
So does anyone approve yours, the clerk's?
No, I mean, I still run it by the president. I have in the past. Previous administration, the president signed off on my requests. So, I mean, we can continue with that practice if the
Add it in there.
current president would like.
Yeah, we could do a checks and balance. I'll do a number 4 under 3 there on approval, and we'll just
Okay.
Go.
make it that each of us
Good idea.
approve each of us.
Because in the blue up above, where I do have a travel request form, I think you guys got it in your,
I saw
so that has been utilized in the past internally between like me and the previous president. Are you going,
Yeah,
are
that
you
was the
going?
first time I
Yep.
had seen that, so I threw that in the back of your packet in case anybody needed to use it.
So can we add just something about overnight lodging?
How about like outside of the tri-county area?
Yeah, but, and
Oakland,
based on
Macomb.
circumstances?
Oakland, Macomb, and then we can either go Wayne or Lapeer.
Yeah, we're a lot closer to Lapeer.
Yeah, just something that just says, and then,
Just kind of thinking out loud, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because in the out of state, you could even question that I could get to Ohio a lot quicker than I can get to Mackinac Island.
yeah, I can get to another
That's
county.
true.
I can get to Oakland County faster than I. But yeah, just something that has that in there so that you have guidelines and you have something to stand on as president and clerk. But yet, kind of reins it in a little bit so that, again, the residents and taxpayers know we're being mindful and respectful, and it's not always granted, and, you know, we're trying to keep it reasonable for all, safe and reasonable.
Personal experience, I've been doing corporate travel, myself traveling for 4 years, a number of different companies. For the most part, they've all been 50 miles or less, you have to come back home. Did you say 50 miles?
That makes it easy.
Yeah.
That'd be my recommendation, again, personal experience.
I'd go with that.
50-mile radius.
And that's whether or not it's a multiple day conference, you just want,
50-mile radius from Village Hall.
Yeah.
okay. Anything else, anywhere else in here?
I would like the board and the residents to know that since I was a speaker at the last conference, they did pay for 1 night of lodging. The association did.
Nice.
And in general, the nights that I've seen, because I've looked at conferences, I've not yet to go, they're between 89 and 109 a night. It's not like these are very lavish. And I did put language in here that should the person going upgrade their room, the village doesn't pay for that upgrade. We pay at the base rate, and whatever that difference is paid by that individual. So should that individual choose to do that, they can, but that will be out of their own pocket.
So if two individuals go, do they each get their own room?
It, from the same like, if Catherine and I went to a conference.
Yeah.
I thought I put that in here.
Something in there about
I would
Top of the
sharing.
second page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean,
It's
I
a
don't care
comfort
if you
level.
want to share a room, but I think you'd want to have your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Places worked
mean,
in the past, it was a double occupancy. and
Yeah.
it was-
whether or not you're of this,
Everyone bitched about it when they did.
Yeah.
whether or not you're of the
Exactly.
same gender, I don't think it should matter. I think you're an adult, and if you would like your own room and you're comfortable,
I would agree with
you have the right
I
to your
would
own
agree.
room.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. But again. So,
Yeah.
anything else, anywhere else on here? I'll bring it back with all of that.
All right, we got
We're gonna
6
make it
Okay, it's 9 o'clock.
I said 15
Who
minutes.
owes who $5?
Okay, that's fine.
Cindy. Okay, moving into our unfinished, or our new business, rather, into our budget amendments. These are our fourth quarter budget amendments. This brings our current budget into closeout status. Do we have any questions? I mean, there's a whole
I'll make a motion to approve
List
the
of
fourth quarter budget amendments.
what and why,
I'll second.
3 pages of it. Okay, so we have a motion by Edwards, second by Parker, to approve the budget amendments as presented. Do we have any discussion? Could you call the roll, please, Catherine?
Yes. Edwards,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
President Poznanski,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
Care.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we are moving into our levy our mills for the fiscal year 23-24.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05 for the 23-24 Budget and Millage General Appropriation Act.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Parker, second by Rousseau. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out one thing, that the millage itself is exactly the same as it was last year, except for the additional 2 mills that we voted on last November and approved for the road construction.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is considered a debt millage, not just a regular tax levy millage.
Right, so that does fall off after, in the 15 years that we pay off that bond.
Yep.
So that's not in perpetuity. So correct. Catherine, did you want to call the roll, please?
Sure. One second. I'm sorry, that was motion by Parker, second by Rosso, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Now we're moving into our road repaving bids. I do have the option, if we want, do you want me to just go ahead and get Mike on the phone from HRC? Or do we want to start talking through it? He does have his printed out recommendation here.
I would go ahead and have him get on, I would think.
Okay, would we be able to, okay, with a 5-minute recess while I get him on and do all the logistics so we don't just,
Sure.
I'll make a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
it is 8:57. Let's come back at 9:05.
Support.
It's a little over 5.
Matt supported. Aye. This gives me an extra 5 minutes.
Okay, we are at 9:05. We're coming back. 1 second, I apologize. I have Mike here on the phone with me. Mike, can, hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Okay, let's go into this. We have HRC's recommendation. Catherine, again, did a bit of a cheat sheet with us. There's 5 bids. Obviously, some of them are quite large, and the obvious one is not. I don't know, Mike, if you want to go in and explaining kind of what we received and where we're at.
Yeah, I can give a brief synopsis of the bids received and the discussion I had with the low bidder that was Proline Asphalt, as you can see, and the information that Catherine provided from the bid opening, and then we reviewed their bid amounts and the other 4 bidders to make sure everything added up as it was read in at the bid opening, and there were no changes to how it was read. So we had broken the project up into 3 different phases that encompass, or 3 different areas that encompass the northwest quadrant of the village, as you can see. And some of the thoughts in that were to make sure that we didn't allow the entire quadrant to be disrupted at one time. So in those areas, they're required to complete work within each of those phases over about a month time frame. Probably on the conservative side, they should be able to complete it quicker, but it's always better to have a little more time for the contractors, not knowing how busy they may be at this particular time, given that it was a bit late, given the need to wait for the bond money to come through and be available beginning July 1st, I believe. So it was broken up into the 3 phases with a separate price for each. The first 2 phases, which were the north and the south, further breaking up that northwest quadrant, were the first 2, and then the third was the western half of the quadrant. And we also broke it down into a little more timing if the third phase was done as an alternate bid, to give us the ability to review it with you and determine if we wanted to do all 3 or maybe just 2, depending on contractor availability, maybe pricing, maybe some other things we didn't think about, but just to give a little better ability to analyze and review and then select from the options. The majority of the work, as you can see, if you reviewed some of the bid items, is related to the road rehabilitation and is intended to be funded through the road millage, and work generally entails the removal of, there's approximately 3.5 to 4 inches of asphalt pavement over a decent base material of aggregate base that's been in place for many years and has held up well. Just that the pavement is now nearing 25 years old, depending on which of the quadrants we're talking about, when it was done in the early to mid 90s, and needs to be replaced. So the thought is we would fully remove the 3.5 to 4 inches of asphalt material, get down to that solid aggregate base material, also complete miscellaneous curb repair for sections that are cracked, broken, maybe sunken a bit due to various reasons over the years, and reinstate that so that it's all consistent along the roadway. Also complete some structure rehab and reconstruction for the top few feet, so that those are reinstated as well. And then the idea would be to, once that work is done, and then also there are some sidewalk ramp replacements required to meet the current ADA requirements for how those are graded and laid out, and then to place the new asphalt pavement in 2 2-inch lifts so that you have a brand new roadway surface from the aggregate base on up. And then prior to that, if there are any soft spots or areas that the aggregate base does need some work, we would have that done ahead of, with proof roll, and have that done ahead of the aggregate base being placed, so that, or ahead of the asphalt being replaced, so that that is shown to be solid and stable, so that the pavement will last many years into the future. And then we have, along with that work, as part of the SAW program that the village had done a few years ago, which reviewed the sanitary and storm system. There were some segments of sanitary sewer that needed to be rehabilitated. So that work was included in the project as well, so that could be potentially done at the same time. So of the 1.927 million that Proline Asphalt bid, approximately 250,000 of that is for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation portion of the work, so that the roadway related work would be less that amount, so it would be in the 1.675 range for the roadway portion of the work. I did talk to Proline Asphalt. We've worked with them many times, so that this is the work they do. I think they may have even done some work in the village over the years, but certainly in many other local communities. And they typically do the job that we expect them to do, and are pretty responsive. So, but we did talk to them to see what their workload is. As I mentioned earlier, this given the time of the year that the project was bid, sometimes contractors get pretty booked up, and they put prices at things that just to get the work if they can, and fill their load out even and further. But Proline did confirm that they are looking for work at this time of the year, and it fit into their schedule nicely. They don't see any problem with the month per phase that's outlined in the bid documents. That should be plenty of time for each of them, and they would be able to complete all 3 phases of the project if they were selected to do so. So, and then I did ask them also about the pricing. It was a bit higher than what we were hoping it would be, and they feel, and this is the contractor talking, so I guess we'll take it with a grain of salt, but the other numbers were pretty close too, and 100,000 higher was the second bidder, and then almost 100,000 higher was the third bidder. I think the fourth bidder was pretty close to the third bidder, with fifth being quite a bit higher. But regardless, I wanted to ask them about pricing, and things have gone up so drastically over the last few years that it's tough to predict where prices might be, obviously, but they still expect that we're going to see about a $5 to $10 increase in costs for the asphalt material next year. So, if we did, potentially we could maybe bid it in the fall for spring 2024 work. But chances are the prices are going to go up for that time period as well. So I can't say that I know for certain that we got great prices or good prices, but they all seem to be consistent in their pricing, and the biggest item of work here is obviously the asphalt pavement, with that being the bulk of the work, and their prices were a bit lower than the other other companies, which is why they have the low price. So I think that we probably got fair prices given the bidding climate, and the construction industry as a whole is very busy, and there aren't a lot of contractors that do the work, and I think it just is what it is at this point.
Mike, can you hear me?
So, yes, I can.
So my question, based on like the current projects that we've had out there, and I think President Poznanski kind of touched on some of these contracts, municipal contracts, how good do you feel about these numbers and the bids and the way they came back, that these numbers are gonna stay pretty concrete? Or do you feel there's a pretty significant percentage that we could see change and additional funds come back and ask for, you know, $300,000-$400,000 more? Or do you think these are pretty good?
As far as if this was awarded, do we feel confident that this price at the end of the project would be the same or very similar to this? Is that the question?
Exactly, yeah, fairly close.
Okay. I would hope so. I mean, I think the biggest item or the biggest cost in the project is the asphalt itself. And you know, we 4 inches based on the cores, the pavement thickness now is like I said, right around that 3.5 to 4 inch range. So we're not taking any curb up, or the curb we're taking up is fairly short segments. So the road profile and grading of that will be the same. So we take out 4 inches of pavement. We're going to put 4 inches back, which is what our quantity is, and bid items are based on. Something that grows, depending on if we wanted to take more out, would be the curbing. We did add I think 300 or 400 feet of additional curbing. When we looked at it and made an estimation of the quantity, and then we reviewed it with Tim and President Poznanski, we were lower than that, but we decided to add more because that would give us some flexibility. So I would think that we should be pretty close. It's not like we're not taking out a lot of driveways, which can tend to grow since we are maintaining the curbing. I think the aggregate base is in good shape based on the cores and the type of pavement deterioration that we had. There doesn't appear to be a lot of soft spots and real concentrated alligatoring and water pumping. It just seems like it's asphalts that's been in place for 20-25 years and just is in need of replacement. So I would think that we should be pretty close. It's tough to always foresee those things, but I think we'll have we'll have to be watching the contractor closely and keep good track of quantities to make sure we don't go over where at all possible.
My other question on the traffic control, or the control lines on each phase, do you feel that's justifiable amounts? I mean, I see them.
It's funny that you asked that. I did see that, you think that a job like this, mostly in residential areas, would not require that. You never know where they put their money.
Yeah.
So I don't. That's a good question. I didn't pose that to them. Why those were high. We tell them what we think is needed and what they're going to be required to do to maintain some access and such, and placing signs for the proper warnings and to get people around during construction. And they put a number in it, and maybe some other unit price number is less because they kind of have a number in mind to bid it. So
okay.
It's difficult to say, but they did. I agree with you looking at that did seem a little high, but it's tough to guess. These, like, see the other guys have 2,400 and
exactly
7,500, but we could go up and see another one of their costs that Proline was lower on and these guys would be higher on. So, it all seems to even out.
I'm good.
Do we have any other questions for Mike? We have them.
Is there a start date that we'd be looking at? Did he say July 1st? Did I hear?
No, he was talking about the money.
Oh,
Mike,
okay.
what is the estimated start date?
I think what we didn't specify anything in particular, but as we had planned for this and gone through the date when the bond money would be available and this Board of Trustee meeting to review and recommend and discuss the bids that would happen at the end of June, we figured by the time contract books and insurance and bonds from a contractor would be in place and get some finalized permits. We were targeting like middle of July would be a good targeted start date for that first phase, and then about a month for each of the phases is what we had indicated. So that would give us around the middle of October for the bulk of the work to be completed in all three phases, and then I think November 1st is what we had indicated would be the completion date for all cleanup and final restoration.
The last question I have, I forgot I had written it down. If they don't complete all the phases by the end of the season, do these prices stay in place for next year? Or are we gonna see an increase based on material cost, or are they gonna pre-buy now?
Good question. So typically, once you're in a contract, unless there's, let's say there's a reason that it's it's not anything that they did. If there was a delay by the village, you didn't want them to start for 2 months, or we delayed them somehow and they couldn't work in the agreed upon or contract dates that were in the book, and it required them to do the work next year, then they would likely, and I'm sure they would, ask for some price adjustments. But assuming that everything goes as planned on the village's end, and it's something that they did that delay that they had to pull off for another job, and we agree, and then they might ask us for an extension, and as part of that, we would either be able to deny it or agree to it. And as part, if we did agree to it, that they could come back next spring and do the third phase or part of one of the phases, then I would expect that we would enforce them to hold their prices because we allowed them to change the schedule.
Okay.
And there also is some liquidated damages, which are tough to collect. I think those are, they're either 500 a day or 1,000 a day beyond the completion date, if the final completion date. So have some of that to hang over their head too. But usually there's ways that they can justify that. But anyway, it gives us something to hang over their head to get them to complete it on time.
Okay.
Yeah, I did make it a point to check with Mike. We just had with the crosswalk project when we were running into that contractor, we were coming close to Peach Fest, but they didn't want to work on the weekend, and how could we, ensure that? And that's where we talked through that we could kind of encourage them in that way, that if, once you go past that date, they start paying us for their lack of getting it done because
Yes.
they decided not to come.
That's right, yeah. Then we talked if, in a future phase, and for the paving, that is, that make sure that we would have those same completion timeframes. Sometimes those are interim completion dates for something like a Peach Fest or an event that a municipality has, and we would need to specify those specific dates when certain work had to be done or suspended. So I think likely in that southeast quadrant, you'd want to get that done early in a year so that there aren't any conflicts with this preparation for the Peach Fest and the actual Labor Day weekend.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve or accept the submitted bid by Proline Asphalt Paving for road rehabilitation in the amount of $1,687,275, and sanitary sewer work at $246,620, for a total of $1,927,895.
Accepting all three phases.
Support.
Accepting all three phases.
Perfect. We have a motion by Parker and support by Edwards. Could you please call the roll, Catherine? Thank you, Mike. I'm going to sign off.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Everyone, have a great night.
You also.
Parker?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
Rosso?
Yes.
President Poznanski?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Congratulations.
Okay. we're
Megan,
moving-
thank you for all the
we're
work you
moving
put into
on.
that.
Yes, and
Appreciate it.
clerk and treasurer also. It's been a learning process for all of us.
Thank everyone.
Thank you. Okay, into our resource officer contract renewal. When we initiated this, it was a one-year contract with, between all the communities to come back in case, it was the beginning, and this way we could work out kinks without having to be in a three-year contract and waiting too long. In that time, the only thing the village has seen to adjust is that there have been times where the school has required more of the officers' time over what they currently are contracted to pay. And at this point in time, the village paid for that, and we have sent an invoice to the Romeo Community Schools for them to cover that cost. It was between $2-3 grand, Chief.
It was about 2,600 and something.
So that wasn't something borne on the villagers, as that was a request due to extra hours that just weren't planned at the beginning of this, and not knowing until we've actually gone through it. So that's just the amended language speaks to that sort of thing. The terms, the date that this will happen, the percentages are all still the same. 60 by the school, 10 from Bruce, 30 from the village. The only thing that, again, would change is any overtime would be paid solely on the school. There was one little wording correction that we just made towards the bottom in paragraph number 5. It talks to the SRO, the school resource officer, being requested. And it's sometimes, the chief has pointed out, it's not that he's requested specifically, but he just knows that there's a dance that night and it would be best for him to be there. That is on the school. So we just added in there requested or as needed by the school. So if everybody is in agreement to continue on with this agreement between the two townships and ourselves with this amendment, I ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agreement for the resource officer. We need different wording than that, but
Support.
So this means this takes us one more year into this agreement, because
I do
Bas-
believe that it says that it'll continue.
in perpetuity, there you go.
yeah, unless we decide to,
Someone
yeah,
decides.
yeah.
There you go. Okay, so that
Which-
takes care of that, and any other amendments such as this can always be, there's language in here to add that in,
Yeah.
just as we just did here, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a motion by Parker, was it support by Care?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, initially, when we first voted on this, I wasn't 100% for us paying the share that we were paying, but after being up there and seeing his interaction with the kids and the staff and the students, the parents, I think this is well worth having him there, definitely.
Great.
yep,
Madam President, where it says Township Hall contributes 10%, is that Bruce Township?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, could you call the roll, please, Catherine?
Yes. Parker?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
President Poznanski?
Yes.
Rosso?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, moving into our Planning Commission accessory building ordinance recommendation. There's an update here. I don't know if you want to speak to this, Trustee Parker?
Yeah, so the biggest change, obviously seen in red, was the wording And originally, if you had an attached garage to your structure, you could only have a certain size outbuilding, which is quite small. So this reworded it to be based on the state, saying the 35% of your lot coverage, and that's your foot plan, not your square footage based on second stories. So it just kind of made it more proportional for someone that might have a few acre lot, or the lot over off Sisson Park that's 10-plus acres. You can have a lot larger building and not exceed the 35%. So you still have to maintain setbacks based on the R1 district, but I think it just makes it more even, fair for everyone.
That's logical.
Yeah.
Was this something that was requested by a resident, or? Yes. Okay. So it's just based on lot size rather than a set parameter for square footage?
Correct.
Yeah. And we did look at that too. It typically talked about square footage, but in that change, we talked about the footprint more so than the square footage of the structure. Like I say, for 2 stories,
Right.
it didn't take up, so. I won't make this motion.
Okay, and we want to have a motion?
I'd like to motion that we adopt the new suggested wording based on the Planning Commission's recommendation for the accessory building ordinance.
Like it.
Does anybody want to support?
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Rousseau, support by Edwards. Go ahead and call a roll, please, Catherine. So we are changing an ordinance, so let's just.
Okay. Rosso?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
President Poznanski?
Yes.
Care?
Yep.
Rosso?
Yes.
You already.
Again.
Oh, I'm sorry, Parker. One up the,
Yes.
Parker. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Wrong line.
Thank
good.
you.
Okay. Now we're moving into our Romeo Park Citizen Task Force, the funding request. This was a request specifically for $254.33 to put an ad in the paper. This is to have a survey of the residents, asking some specific questions regarding parks. I put in here the exact survey. Some of the questions, so question number 1, would you be interested in seeing more parks or green spaces? If yes, would you envision the park a green space? And please check all that apply. There's things in there like benches, picnic tables, blah, blah, blah. This encompasses 8 questions along those lines. And so this is the request currently.
Is this just for printed in the newspaper survey?
Right, and that's kind of like what Clark was getting at, is this is just for that. And if they wanted to make copies to hand out to residents to have somewhere to hand in, they don't have a line item for that.
Could we attach something electronically, like a Survey Monkey, to the village hall or the village website or Facebook page that would promote more residents to?
Yeah, I'm sure we could embed something like that. Catherine, to the website. Catherine does most of the website and I do the social media, so it's not really my thing.
Yeah, we should be able to utilize something on the front page like that.
And then we could do it on the Facebook also. That would be, I think, utilize, getting out to more residents.
I mean, if the task force creates the Survey Monkey and has everything in the attachment, we'll put it in there.
Yeah.
And isn't Survey Monkey free? That's no cost.
Yeah.
I thought it
Believe
was,
so.
up to a certain,
Yeah.
like,
Trial or
yeah.
amount of entries or
Yes,
something,
yeah,
I think.
and I
Something.
think we're good there. Okay, do we have a motion? And what would that motion be?
I guess I'll make a motion to approve the $254.33 as requested by the RPCTF.
Okay, do we have a support?
I'll support, can we put that as maybe a minimum, give them up to a certain amount,
Well, I was thinking about that. What if we said like $500?
not to exceed?
But then I would want either receipts for the money after that,
Yeah.
or a budget created, or something, some way to,
Right.
where they could document where they spent the additional funds.
Right, and the village would need those invoices anyways to pay that out.
Receipts are an SOP. I mean, we're not, and we've got a liaison that's on there that would approve it before we spend the money. We're not talking about, going out and spend a ton of money. It's just to have,
What do you think, 500 would cover?
whatever comes up, but I'll have to wait another month to do something.
Yeah, I think if you approve to pay this invoice plus not to exceed a total encompassing number for any additional things regarding the survey.
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to include that.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed $500.
And I'll continue support.
Okay, so we had a motion by Edwards, support by Parker. I'll give you a minute to write that all.
So Clark, if I may ask, this is the exact ad you want in the paper, correct?
Pardon me?
This is the exact ad that you want in the paper, correct?
Yes, right.
So is the thought that people would cut this out and turn it in?
Well, we're gonna use the same one when we go around and canvass neighborhoods and go to people, we're gonna print it out. That would be the same size they could cut out and mail it back in or do something, whatever they want to do, or drop it off.
Oh, yeah, I guess in this, it does say to return
Yeah,
to here, to Parks and Rec.
yeah.
Has that been
We've
discussed?
already talked to Parks and Rec about it, leave the forms here and, getting them to hold them. We pick them up, but, the date's gonna change when we want it back, but, we pick them up, it's like we drop them off to the city hall.
And I'm assuming the dates will change?
Yeah, that's what you just said.
Oh, okay, okay, I missed that.
Okay, you ready for a motion? I mean, for roll call,
Sure.
pardon me?
Yep. Edwards,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Care,
No.
Rosso,
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Is this, another, just based on reading through this, the email address, is this a village email? It's just the way something's been created representing the village in some,
No, the Romeo Park Citizen Task Force created their own email.
representing. Do you have access to that, Shelley?
No.
She will,
Okay. yeah.
Shelley can, okay.
right, just like, yeah, she will.
Okay, you can
Thank
get
you.
us the password or something.
Yeah, we haven't tested it out yet. It's just the way to do that. But, yeah, that's what's gonna happen. You'll have access to it. Just like you will, I guess.
Right, because especially the clerk, should anything ever be FOIA'd from that email, the clerk would need
Yes.
access to it. Okay. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
And I know before, you said I thought you guys were gonna present like a report tonight.
Pardon me?
When I met with you guys last month, thought you guys were gonna have a presentation tonight, or are we gonna wait till after the survey?
We're gonna do it next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think you might have said that, I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify.
Get the result of the survey.
It's after 9 o'clock, Mike.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
They were on the agenda for presentation. They asked to be moved to July pending after the survey. It would probably just make more sense. It sounds like it anyways. Okay, this next item is for discussion, the additional mills for the road project. When the project was presented, I put in here, again, in our packet, the whole presentation from Vetrano Consulting, Municipal Analytics, and HRC. All of these graphics and everything, us getting to a certain point and getting the roads to a certain, number, was all based off of a two-part decision. And that was a bond plus 2 mills, which would then generate, I'm trying to find what page it is, the 350 grand a year for the maintenance and X, Y, and Z. Well, we only did the first part. That's what I put in here, our bond language. We went and we bonded or asked the residents for the money for the bond, and we did the first part. So I've asked Catherine, she asked Mr. Vitrano, okay, well, based off that, none of this is true anymore. So how can we take what we are currently doing, can they redo their vision of, I mean, the council voted for that, us doing the almost 5 million in bonds and plus 2 mills, and that would have gotten us that blue line. Well, now that we haven't done the other part, what would this realistically look like now? So that we can see, well, what does this council want to do? Do we want to continue, and do we want to do those 2 mills? Do we want to take that to a vote? And even then, by the time we would do that, this will also change. So we're going to have to ask them to kind of run it 2 separate ways. What if we don't ever do that? And what if we do and it passes at that election in a year or so, and we finally start getting that money? Now what does the projection actually look like? So I wanted to bring this to us because as we were putting the mills together to pass tonight, the realization came that, well, we never did that part. So I wanted to see what you guys, do you want to put money? Obviously, it's going to take time. James's answer was, I would not be able to provide an answer to this without rerunning the road construction data model with HRC. We could rerun it in the road condition data with just the 2 mil debt funds. We could also run it with the 2 mil debt funds being added now and the 2 mil operational funds being added later. Really, any scenario can be run, but it would require a bit of time. And I'm assuming for that time, he's going to want money. So I would like to at least see where we're actually headed now, that we didn't do the recommendation, so that we can have
back when this was proposed last year?
Yes. So on page 10, every single one of them was an investment of a bond plus 350 per year after. And that's where those 2 extra mills came in. We only did the first part. So any of this graphing is horribly inaccurate now.
I guess I would question, what was the motion made when that was approved? Because I thought.
We made a motion to go, it said, I thought I left that in here. It said option 2.
Yeah, so when that's,
Which would have been everything.
yeah.
But it wasn't done. That's what I'm trying to point out.
So the council made a motion, it passed to do something, and then why didn't we do it? Where was that disconnect, or where was that, what happened?
I wasn't here at that time, in this seat anyways. I don't know, because even Christine in an email that's in here, she even acknowledged that our optimal strategy as identified through this analysis would be an initial large investment via a $4 million bond coupled with an additional street levy of 2 mills. So I don't, somewhere along the way, a ball got dropped. And we only put on the election ballot for the bond. So now we're kind of in a spot.
For the maintenance part.
For the 350 a year.
Right.
But that would come out of the general fund, right? That wouldn't have anything to do with.
No, that's going to come out of our highway.
Our highway fund. So
Trying to find it.
we voted on the bond, we moved forward, and then.
They should have been.
Were we supposed to put 350 in last year? Is that what you're saying? We
They
didn't
should
do
have been
it?
on here together so that we couldn't end up in the spot where one got approved without the other. The whole, like I said, on page 10, everything was bond plus the 350. It should have been done together. We only did one. So essentially, we're buying something brand new and we're doing something, and we have no way, no plan at this moment to take care of it.
So, I
Was
mean,
it-
if the motion was already made to pay the 350 a year, I don't know where it's lost. I mean, because, yeah, we put it on, we had to go out to vote
'Cause
to
it had-
borrow money, but we don't have to go out to vote to spend the money that's already in the funds, right?
No, what this is raising 2 more mills. That's what would have been needed to be voted on. It's a total of 4. It was 2 for the debt and 2 additional in the highway. That's where this only asked for the 2 for the debt, for the millage, or for the bond. So I'm trying to see what you guys want to do. I at least want to run where we're currently at and see what that trajectory looks like. Are we,
Wouldn't that put us at the orange, roughly? If we're still doing the 350 with only a 2 million
we're not doing
investment?
350. That was something unless you want us to pull it out of the budget somewhere.
So you're saying it's not there?
Correct.
That was an additional mill?
Correct.
I see, okay. I thought that was coming out of,
That's where, okay, here, so James says, these are 2 separate millages required, a debt millage of 2 mills and an operational millage of 2 mills. It is a total of 4 mills, but must be done at 2 separate actions.
that's where I'm confused, because if we went with the second option, the blue, it's a $4 million initial.
Of which we bonded,
Plus 350
yes, which would be the other 2
per
giving us.
year. So you said 2 for 2, which is a total of 4.
Correct.
But
We
then
only
we-
did 2.
Well, I mean, when we finish, the road should be good for at least a year, I would think, or 2 years without spending $350,000 to maintain the ones you just did.
Correct, but part of also continuing and finishing the project, at least in what I'm trying to understand now that I'm coming in after the fact, is that 350 would also be making up what we don't have
Yeah, that
from the bond. The bond is not enough. And this extra would be adding up over time to not only maintain, but also continue the project. So at this point, I guess what I'm asking is, I wanted to make you guys aware of this. We need to go back to some consultants and the professionals here and ask them to rerun the numbers, show us what this looks like if we do nothing, show us what it looks like if we do A, B, and C, and give us some options here, as we need to make some sort of decision.
Do we have any idea how much HRC will charge to re-go over all of that?
I didn't even ask. This didn't quite come across this issue until we were writing the mills. And I was like, how can you do that? We didn't approve that, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where we came
So,
to.
I'm still confused. Maybe it's me, but if we went out, the voters voted on the 4.5, whatever, the 4 million initial. Now you're saying we need an additional 2, so that's actually a $6 million?
No, it's not a 2 million, it's not 2 to bond, it's to put, the mills that we just approved? You would be raising their taxes 2 mills, and that's where that 350 capture comes from.
The bond is longer.
These are 2 separate,
Yeah.
right.
Where this is an annual fee.
Because now what we are doing is putting a plan in place to not be at the spot where we are at, that the roads got done 20 years ago with minimal maintenance, and now here you are to continue to build them from the ground up.
So
It's
I don't know where the
maintaining
ball
them.
was dropped, but I would say let's talk to our fancy Plant Moran accountants and find a way for us to pay for it and not go back to their taxpayers and ask them now for additional funding when they just voted for 4 million, thinking that we were gonna get this done. But if we gotta cut something or figure out a
Well,
way.
we don't have to spend the whole 350 either necessarily. We could do 200 maybe.
Yeah, find it in the budget,
Right.
yeah, and let's make it happen.
Well, it's not in the budget, and that's kind of what I'm telling you, is so that's why I want to run the numbers, because I want to go back to HRC, have them rerun it with where we're currently at, so that you guys can see the trajectory.
Okay.
And then
So-
let's make a plan going forward once we see the reality of where we're at.
Wouldn't we have needed a line item in the budget for this? For maintenance? Is there
We
one?
do, and we currently have mills levied for highway. It's under 2. It's like 1.
So we'd use that same line item.
Right. That's what we're saying, is that would be raised 2 mills. But if that's something we're going to go to the voters, we need to get that conversation. I want it going now, so that by the time an election actually comes around, that's on the ballot and we have all that language. Or we choose to do it a different way. And that's why I'm saying, let's go to the professionals, have this rerun of what we actually did, see where we're at, and then see what suggestions they have.
Yep.
Yeah,
That'd be a
because
better way to do it, because maybe we can get by with 1 mill, or, like you say, pulling it out of the general fund in future years, or maybe it's just,
yeah, because we just approved a budget
Maybe.
and
what about highways, monies, or?
Well, yeah, and we can't we couldn't just do it tonight anyways. I mean, we didn't make the voters aware, we didn't, there's steps. I'm just coming here, making you guys aware of where I found that we are at, and this is my plan forward. Is everyone on board with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
I'd like to know cost, but as long as it's not outrageous.
I don't know, and I don't really know how much choice we have to
Yeah.
shop around for someone to.
We're gonna have to raise the gazebo fees a little bit.
Catherine, you gotta hop on those telephone company estimates and get
So
get those down.
I'm supposed to have a meeting on Thursday with our account rep to take care of that.
Yay, there you go, there's a couple $100,000 right there.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Are you asking them to do a cash flow analysis, what, the funding, reserve funding and CDs and all that stuff?
No.
How you're gonna handle that? Holy.
That's,
Okay, so we'll table that, and when I get information back, if the numbers, estimates to run this are what I feel is astronomical, we'll come back and I'll check those with you before we walk forward there.
I know you weren't there in office at this time, I just really like to know where the ball was dropped. It just seems like one thing after the next, after the next, after the next keeps piling up. And it's alarming.
Right, but we're here now, and we will figure out a path forward. Okay, the last item, our fiscal year meeting dates. Have you looked over the dates? Does anybody have any issues of what is proposed?
Nope.
Motion to approve the fiscal year meeting dates as presented.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Care and second by Edwards. Discussion?
I have a question about the October 17th date,
Okay. For which board?
Board of Trustees, excuse
Okay.
me. So what holiday are we compensating for?
That's a Tuesday.
Oh, I think that asterisk can be taken off because Columbus Day is the second Monday, so it doesn't interfere.
So that date's wrong. That's a Tuesday, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, October 17th is a Tuesday,
Okay, so,
so that wouldn't be a
wait,
Board of
So it'd be
Trustees
the
meeting
16th.
anyways.
So it'd be the 16th.
16th, yep,
Okay.
typo.
So can you make a motion? What?
How do you know that so far out ahead?
Because when it's an asterisk, it says holiday.
Well, yeah, but.
And you
you
know
knew
there's no
that-
holiday in the middle of October. It's the beginning.
Okay, well, I amend my motion to make the October meeting the 16th, not the 17th, for the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
I'll amend my support.
Okay, anything else? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. We will adjourn this meeting at
Motion to adjourn.
9:55.
Support.
Motion by Parker, support by Edwards. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed to ending the meeting? None opposed.
Good night, nurse.
But